Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Mythic Banter. We're back with all of that juicy banter of all the things that happened throughout this week. I'm here with Accolonn. How you doing, Accolonn?
What's good? What's good, boys? I'm good, and you, Rurikhan? I'm very good. How are you doing, man?
I am actually terrible. My right leg is in extreme pain. I'm an old man. It is what it is. And interestingly enough, I feel like I hurt the leg while I was sleeping.
But it is true. As you get older, you go to bed feeling fine. You wake up, you go, holy, what did I do?
Dude, you know that I had like nothing to have for breakfast this morning. So I just look in the fridge and I see eggs. And I was like, bro, you know what? I'm going to boil 2 eggs. That's my breakfast. Just boiled 2 eggs. They're not hard boiled. They're like soft boiled. I love them. Like when they're kind of like runny. I like that stuff, man.
I don't eat egg, so I have no frame of reference for what is good or what is not good as an egg.
It's supposedly one of the best foods that you can have is eggs because they have like everything.
I happen to be allergic to eggs, so.
Oh, okay, then if you eat one of those, you might die. So it might not be a good idea.
I'm not acutely allergic to eggs, so I can eat eggs. But after,
so you get like
if I have like 3 days in a row of egg, I'll start to like swell up, and my ears will start to close down as the sinuses are getting infected.
Yeah,
so I can't have like eggs all the time.
Yeah. It is what it is, but they're
plus
they're
it happens to be I hate eggs, so it's fine. I don't have to.
Good. That's your system being really useful and being like, we don't like this thing, and it's also bad for us. So good.
What a happy coincidence. But then I apparently when I was growing up as a baby, I would eat eggs and sardines literally daily and love it. So I don't know if I just add so much eggs and sardines that I cannot eat eggs, and I refuse to even touch sardines.
Bro, sardines in Portugal, man.
Yeah, but like, even here in South Africa, dude, well, I remember growing up, my mom would always make, like always, it was her favorite thing to make for us. Just as like snacks, not like proper cooking. She would do toast, like pieces of bread with sardines crushed on top. With like cheese in the oven to broil.
Okay. The cheese part that's weird. You're getting into some strange territory.
That was my mom's favorite thing, dude.
No, you had me right up until the cheese part because that's something we do here as well. Like we'll have a big slice of bread and then we'll put the sardine on it, and like all of the juices of the sardine kind of like make the bread a little bit wet and flavorful. It's really good.
I don't think so, but okay. You know, growing up, I apparently liked it, but ever since I can remember, I have not touched the sardines or eggs. So
you want to know a really funny thing that will be relatable to our American viewers? I had an American friend of mine came to my wedding, and he was like, "You guys have bone on the fish. This is like a health hazard." And I was like, "What do you mean? You just you take out the bone while you're eating it." He's like, no, you got to take out the bone before, like it needs to, and the fish needs to be breaded. And I was like, breaded? You mean fried? The only way you would eat fish is like boneless fried fish. And so I was like, shit probably comes straight out of like a processing facility somewhere. What do you mean?
I'm also not a fan of boned fish, but
here we go. You guys are weird, man.
Dude, no, not you guys. I'm not a fan of it. But in South Africa, things like kingklip, sole, snook. There's so many fish that people eat with the bone, and there's some fish that you really can't do without the bone, like kingklip, I think. But it has the good thing is it's one continuous bone. So you literally just pull the meat off of that bone. It doesn't have like small little bits of bone in the meat. I personally don't like it, but also fried. I like things fried. So I'm with this American dude. Fried fish is better. Anything fried is better.
I mean, I agree. Fried stuff. I love fried stuff. It's just really, really bad for you. That's the problem.
Yeah, but it is really, really good for you though. In terms of taste, it makes you feel good in the moment. Going,
it does fish. Make you feel good in the moment. Just fucks you up afterwards. That's the problem.
Next day you wake up going, what the happened here?
Yeah.
But anyways, you guys didn't come here for food discussions, even though we could probably go on and on about this. You came for the news, the gaming news. And if everything goes well, you'll receive this episode tonight on a Friday night.
Oh.
I will be sitting down and editing it as quickly as I can. So if there are no chapters, it's because I'm lazy and I don't have time to add the chapters. So
bro, I'm telling you, people don't appreciate how much work goes into making chapters. I mean, chapters. It's the hardest part of any podcast.
Yeah, because you have to listen to the podcast whilst you're editing it. Then you have to add the timestamps. You have to do. I will try my absolute best. If there are no timestamps, maybe one of our viewers can put some timestamps in the comments. And I'll pin that comment so that you become the timestamp maestro. But all right, into the first story of the day. We cover a lot of woke and anti-woke stuff on this channel, and we cover a lot of the game studios that have woke egg on their face. So it is only fair that if we're going to cover studios being caught by woke, that we also cover anti-woke YouTubers being caught by, well, other YouTubers. We are, of course, talking about SmashJT, and SmashJT got scammed. Now, for those of you that don't know the exact story of everything that happened here, SmashJT is a YouTuber within the anti-woke space. I happen to be friends with him, so full disclosure, I know him very well. I've been on his streams a couple of times, so I know Smash very, very well. I made a video on this, but in the interest of absolute transparency, here we go. Smash covers a lot of insider news, and he has a lot of insiders that speak to him. So one YouTuber decided to see just how well SmashJT authenticates his insiders. Now, before we even get into this, it is important to understand it is very hard to build up what you call a journalistic insider base. Right now, you would know this, Rurikhan, being also someone that covers a lot of games and stuff.
Actually, I don't have any insider sources, so
no, but you cover a lot of stuff, right? Sources come from everywhere. You'll sometimes see articles with sources, and then those articles come out to never actually happen. There's like massive claims, but nothing ever happens.
This is why whenever I'm reporting on something, I always look at it and I think to myself, is that actually believable? And even if it is something that I believe in, the other thing that I start thinking about, okay, but is it verifiable? And usually I'll be like, I think this is true, but I have no way of verifying it. I'm probably just not going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
Like that's usually because again, I don't necessarily do as much like, oh, I need to know every single. Usually I'm talking about Dark Souls and Monster Hunter.
I mean, you're not really doing industry. You're more game deep dives rather than industry deep dives.
Sometimes I do some industry stuff, like whenever it comes to dunking on Ubisoft. That's always satisfying. Dunking on Destiny 2, also satisfying.
It's being a patriot. It's called being a patriot. But okay, so the way it works, if you want to be a credible, I guess you could say, exposer or someone that does exposés within the gaming industry, you would get a source. Then you would take that source's information to other sources. Right. And then once you have, so the main thing is 1 is a rumor, 2 is hearsay, 3 is fact. So you need at least 3. Yeah.
I've always wondered, like, how do people verify their sources? I would imagine that like an easy way would be, okay, send me an email from your Ubisoft account, but then like,
no one would
do that. Their IT team could go like, actually, why'd you send out this email? What's going on here? And if you just talk about screenshots, you can doctor those fairly easy and all of that stuff. So yeah, I don't know how you would go about trying to vet someone. Because like I recently needed to vet someone because I was approached by Discord about something. It's not really like big industry stuff, but and I was like, okay, you claim that you're this person. I need you to send me an email from this domain so that I can verify it. And they sent me an email from that domain. And I was like, all right. That's cool. You are this person. Like, that was it. Funnily enough, Google identified that mail as like, this is likely a scam. And I was like, no.
Easy.
What do you mean?
Google doing the work for you.
Google things. Yeah.
But so the way I do it, because like I said, that's the right way to do it. That's the journalist way to do it. The problem with that is you need a lot of resources because and a lot of time, a lot of experience. Because you basically need to build up a network of insiders that you effectively can approach with information to verify whether or not this information is actually true. So we never, at least no YouTuber is yet at the level where they can claim to have that level of resources or that level of insider connections. Even large YouTubers, because this isn't a case of how many subscribers you have or how many views you get. This is just a case of how long have you been in the business of trying to make connections?
I think that some of the people that have left the mainstream media industry, they probably have some of those connections. Like one person that comes to mind would be like Destin Legary. He would probably have some of those connections because he used to work at IGN. So if a developer that he's interviewed in the past or something reaches out to him, he will be able to be like, yep, this is actually someone that I know. Yeah. And, the problem is that some people in the mainstream media abuse that. And sometimes because something just suits their narrative, they'll just like, I have a source. Yeah, I know all about this.
Like,
ooh.
But people in the mainstream, because more often than not, the insider sources that you make are at meet and greet events. It's in person. Because then developers might be a lot more comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, I may have some insider information for you.
Absolutely.
Right? Rather than a paper trail that can link back to them and, So you make most of those. And most YouTubers are not yet in the space long enough to even claim to have that sort of backdrop, right? Unless they come from the mainstream. And not in the recent 5-6 years, because most journalists in the mainstream today are not investigative journalists. They basically just look at news on Twitter and go, let's go.
I would actually argue there's probably quite a few YouTubers that do have that. It's just a matter that I think a lot of those YouTubers don't cover this type of content.
Yeah, but that's why they wouldn't really have it, because they don't go out of their way to try and build insider networks of, like if I would never be invited to insider meet and greets. But if I was, you bet your ass I'd be spending the entire time building insider networks to try and build up a network of people that I can talk to. So because we can't do the verify through other sources, we're sort of left with you ask someone. So what I tend to do is I'll ask them their name. I'll ask them their surname to see whether or not they actually even work at this place. I'll ask sort of easy questions where I already sort of decide what their answer would be if they're trying to convince me, right, on the question that I'm asking. And then if they give me an answer that is just 100% in line with what I would have given if I was making up the source, then I kind of already very much disagree with this. And then sometimes I'll ask, or at least try to ask, to send me a picture of you in the office, right? So we're holding your badge or something so that I can see that you're actually working at the studio. The issue, of course, is most developers speaking out are super skittish. So
of
even
course.
there, I've only had one developer ever that sent me a picture of them holding their badge in front of the company logo, taking a selfie. So that's the only, and they did it as part of like a day, right, where it wouldn't be weird. So it was an older picture, but at least through that I could verify and do sort of reverse search. I couldn't find the image anywhere else on YouTube or on Google.
I have thought of like the scenario in my head. If I was ever approached by an insider, how would I verify them? And I just kind of feel like most of the requirements that I would have, there's like, okay, fine, I'm not going to talk to you because I'd be super weird about it. I'd be giga weird about that stuff.
Yeah, but that's why I have every single time I've covered insider information, because I do have a couple of insiders. One super mega verified, as I've already said. Another, I would say semi-verified, and then one that I have no verification for. But in all of those videos, I've labeled it as rumors, right? Yeah. I don't do the whole, this is absolute fact. And this is what Smash did wrong. Smash labeled it as fact. Now, in his video, he does say take it with a grain of salt. But the problem is, because it's already sort of set up as being an actual insider source, people don't really listen to the take it with a grain of salt kind of thing, because that could mean so many different things, right? That could mean things can change. So take it with a grain of salt. That does not mean that I don't know if I can trust this inside source. But basically, it comes down to he received inside information that Assassin's Creed Shadows was going to be delayed once again. It wasn't going to come out on the 28th of February. Instead, it was going to be delayed for like April or March or May.
It's not coming out on the 28th of February.
Yeah, but it was going to be delayed even further than that. So it was going to go to like April, May, or June, I think. Was going to be.
I'm just saying the current date is not 28th. It can't be, because I remember them moving it because of Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yeah, but it is now, right? It's soon-ish.
It's
March
20th. Yeah, March 20th.
Yeah, so this was supposed to be an even further delay.
Yeah,
and I think actually Smash's video may have come out before the March 20th announcement came out, but I don't quote me on this because I've not kept up with it.
Didn't Smash's video came out like last week or something?
Yeah, I think Monday last week or something.
Yeah, because like Monday, the March 20th date has been a while, because I remember memeing on it with like a Monster Hunter meme being like, yeah, you need to get the hell out of the way. You need to get the hell out of the way before you get friggin' trampled.
They did at least take our advice and postpone a little, because I remember when they announced that it was going to be February, both of us were like, whoa, really? During Monster Hunter? Wow.
Good.
That's brave.
Good luck.
yeah, so it's good that they announced. But they basically announced that it was going to be even later. So it was only going to be June or July. That's the insider source. Yeah. And Smash shows the email and everything. Turns out, as soon as this video is made public and Smash is getting the views on this insider source, a YouTuber by the name of McDizzle comes out on Twitter and goes, so I know none of these sources are real. I know none of this is real. He retweets his tweet with the video. He says, because I am that source. I am that insider.
Yeah.
I am the leaker. And he shows the original email that he has.
The source is me. I made it up.
Yeah, I completely invented it. Now, of course, peak irony would be if Ubisoft announces that they
actually delayed
it. Delaying it. Like, that would be peak irony to the whole thing. You're by accident, you just reported the news accurately. But
it's like, I will say, a while back, JT reported on a leak, which was something about Dragon Age the Veilguard. It has something to do with sales numbers, like the expectations and how much they actually sold and whatnot. And I think a week or two after he reported on it, a bunch of mainstream outlets also reported on it and pretty much confirmed what he had said.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where I was like, oh, he might actually have some insights, because the numbers really lined up. It was something about 1.5 million copies sold or something like that. And then IGN or Eurogamer or some other credible source reported on it. I was like, oh, those numbers look a lot like the numbers SmashJT reported last week. So I was like, oh, okay. So
Smash definitely has insiders. He definitely has. I've spoken to him. I know he has actual legitimately confirmed insiders that he has spoken to in person almost.
Like I said, I don't know SmashJT in person. I don't know anything about him. So usually whenever I watch one of his videos, I'd be like, okay, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Who knows? But the one where the stuff got confirmed later by mainstream outlets, I was like, ooh, those numbers are very, very close to what he reported on. I'm very surprised that it would be that accurate. So the concept that this other person was saying that like, oh, he has absolutely no sources. I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. If he doesn't have sources, he got really, really lucky with those friggin' Veilguard numbers. That's for damn sure.
I mean, he's been on point with a number of his inside sources, but this obviously left him with some egg on his face, right?
Of course.
You accepted an email. Now, it should be mentioned, right? Now, I think before we get going, in my video even, I called Smash out on this. I said, this is why we should label inside information as rumor. We shouldn't report it as absolute fact because we don't have the networks available to actually take information and cross-check it with other sources. Because that's the best way to do it. That's the gold standard. That's literally the gold standard of journalism. Now, to be fair, this happens in the mainstream as well. The mainstream consistently gets stuff wrong, have sources that don't pan out. And Smash immediately, as soon as he got called out, made a follow-up video basically admitting that he had been called out.
Yeah.
Right? That he had been had. McDizzle, however, and this should be mentioned, just so that people don't go into the whole, oh, so Smash is just a fraud. This McDizzle dude went through a lot of effort to sell this as a source. He used a real name of a real developer that works at Ubisoft. He linked to this real developer's blog, right, that he writes about his life and working in the gaming industry and stuff of that nature. He made the email address on Proton literally this guy's name and this guy's surname. So everything looked, on the surface at least, like a legitimate source. Like this is legitimately what you would see from a source. So it's not like Smash just got an email from some random goodguy22@gmail.com and went, there we go, let's do this, right? He did try to double check a lot of things and he did search online and he found this developer working at Ubisoft, and it wasn't like some front-facing public developer. So you sort of assume.
I mean, if he has a blog, he's a public person.
Yeah, but having a blog, anyone can have a blog, right? It's more a case of this isn't some famous Ubisoft person, or at least semi-famous that random people would just know about. So he did do some of it, but fundamentally, I think it has exposed a giant gap that still exists in the YouTube media landscape. YouTubers are going to have to get serious about journalistic integrity, about what it means to be a journalist, because the truth is, we are the journalists now. The mainstream is dying. Regardless of what anyone wants to say, almost all of the mainstream media outlets are owned by Ziv Davis. One company basically owns all of them and funds all of them at the moment. And this means that this industry is on its last legs, and it kind of makes sense. This industry doesn't have the speed to move the way that YouTube.
I don't necessarily agree with that. We've talked about it multiple times. I think that there's a space where both types of media can thrive, both mainstream as well as new media with YouTube and all of that stuff. The biggest issue with YouTube, and likely what led SmashJT down this path, is that YouTube demands content.
Yeah.
You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. And the moment that you're just like, oh, let me just not make content for a week, the algorithm's like, okay, good luck getting back to people's feed. Good fucking luck. It's like, it's literally that toxic, unless you're like just a massive creator that uploads like once a week, and that consistency kind of like keeps people coming back. But if you're somebody who does content like, I don't know, 2-3 times a week, and then suddenly you don't upload for a full week, the algorithm will hit you harder than a ton of bricks. And that is something that a lot of people don't know. So there's a ton of pressure on YouTubers to keep making content. By the way, this includes me as well. And sometimes I have to take L's. I'm be like, hey, I'm not going to be able to post anything for 3-4 days. And then you're kind of like building back up to getting onto people's feed again, which is very, very frustrating. And so I understand why SmashJT maybe moved a little bit fast on this, but it doesn't excuse it. No. There's no excuse. It's, you fucked up. It is what it is.
You see, the reason I think the mainstream is going to be dying. So first, let's talk about the drivel media. And I don't mean this as an insult. I mean, most of the mainstream media stuff now, if you go onto IGN, PC Gamer, all of these, the overwhelming majority of articles there is literally just Twitter news being reworded into an article. Like, it's all sources that you find on Twitter, sources that you find on Reddit, people just sharing random shit, and you just sort of report on what is there. Every once in a while,
I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
I'll get to. Let me just finish, and then you can say whether you agree or not. Then you have what we could probably call the go-between journalist. These are people that don't quite reach the level of Jason Schreier expose, but they do cover inside news that most Redditors and Twitter users wouldn't have access to. Right? So they have access to sources, and then you have the Jason Schreier expose people. Right? So these are guys that don't write a lot of articles, but when they do write an article, it's like 500 pages long. It takes 2 hours to read, because it's just like a full book of exposing something that's happening within the game space. The people who do drivel media, they're going to die to YouTubers, because YouTubers are able to move much faster. Like, from the moment a story hits Twitter to the moment that my video goes up, an hour. As soon as I see that story, I will have my video ready within an hour. You don't get that in the mainstream media, because you have to write it up. Then it has to go to the editor. Then the editor makes a bunch of edits because they want it worded in this way, that way, or the other. A bunch of stuff. And then finally it goes to print. Well, we don't print anymore, but then it goes to the website. Unless you're just writing for the blog space of the mainstream. The mid-sized guys, the ones with the insiders, they're already being replaced actively by YouTubers. Because YouTubers are building inside spaces. They're building inside sources. And even the ones that aren't part of culture war stuff, you look at someone like, we both like his reviews very much. Oh man, not Mr. Matty Plays. Skill Up. Yeah. You look at Skill Up. He already has a bunch of inside people that he can talk to. If you watch his live stream or his podcast, there's a lot of time
per second
where he'll sort of talk about stuff that he's hearing from the inside, right? People that are talking to him from the inside. It's not culture war stuff, but it is news from the inside. And he's able to report it in a way that's much more satisfying than reading it in an article, and a lot more interactive. So the only journalists I can actually see surviving this, so in the mainstream, are going to be people like Jason Schreier. And it's only because the actual network that you need in order to write these very large exposés, most YouTubers don't have the funding to support that, because you need a bunch of people to help you build these networks and research a bunch of different topics and actually investigate a lot of this stuff. There's flying oftentimes involved. A guy like Jason Schreier would have to fly to LA to go talk to Blizzard developers, maybe in person, who's too skittish to send emails, or has to fly to Europe to talk to some people. Most YouTubers, what are you doing while you're flying to Europe? Where's the content? We just spoke about it. You can't go for 3 weeks to Europe every 2 months to go do a story, a massive expose. It wouldn't really work. So I think the only people in the mainstream that's going to survive and not be killed by just modern day media is going to be the expose guys. I'd like to hear your sort of retort on that. Why you think people like the drivel writers are going to survive? Like, what do they offer that YouTubers and Twitter and those can't offer?
It's not about drivel writers surviving or not. The thing that I said I disagreed with is that you are painting a very broad brush, indicating that there's almost no value in mainstream media. And that's the part that I don't agree with. I think that there are people in mainstream media that are doing good work. Like, for instance, recently, I followed the reporting of Casey the Freitas on IGN, and she was reporting on Monster Hunter. And it was interesting because a lot of people would criticize like her gameplay, and I was like, her gameplay is fine. She's not like a speedrunner, but it's like being a speedrunner does not make a good showcase for showing you new monsters in Monster Hunter. Because if a speedrunner is showcasing a new monster, all you see is the monster in the ground getting pounded, doing nothing, which is not necessarily interesting for players to do. So I think that Casey the Freitas did phenomenal reporting. I usually like Gene Park stuff. Jason Schreier, who you've already mentioned, and there's more people. Now, one of the big problems in mainstream media that I will agree with you on is that the thing you are calling drivel writers, usually what is happening right now is they're not even drivel writers, it's AI. Like there's a bunch of websites right now that are just straight up posting AI random bullshit. So at one point, people even asked me to like check out this article that was written about Monster Hunter, and I just go onto this website. I think it was Screen Rant, not 100% sure. And I started reading it because people wanted me to give my take, and I was like, I don't even know that there's any point in giving a take about this because it seems like it was written by AI. Like it just, I don't think anybody that has actually played Monster Hunter would write something like this. It's completely ridiculous. Yeah. And I have seen, at least in that website, and people have told me that it does seem like that website uses a bunch of AI stuff. And I have seen articles that definitely feel like they were just written by AI. And it's almost like the AI is purposefully saying random controversial nonsense to get people to kind of like react to it. And that is where I think there is definitely a problem. You don't want to replace human written articles by AI because it's going to make mistakes. It's not going to care that much about how accurate it is or is not or whatever. But like I said, I still feel that there are some people in there that do good work, and I think that there's a space for it, the whole thing to be synergistic rather than completely replace it.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm focusing on more is every single journalist that you can point to that does good work are old guard journalists. It's people that's been in the industry for 20 plus years in some cases, right? Like Jason Schreier has been in the industry for a very long time. The new guys, most of the new guys are Alyssa Mercante level journalists. They basically like having the label of journalist because they think it gives them some sense of importance. But then you go and you actually look at where a lot of people who study journalism end up. It's places like Medium, right? It's by places like Substack where they're running their own journalistic stuff because it gives them the opportunity to spend time investigating stuff, putting stuff together, because the mainstream media no longer really wants to pay for that. I think there's a reason why someone like Jason Schreier left Kotaku. Because I think from Kotaku's perspective, paying Jason Schreier the salary that he was receiving, and he basically only writes an article once or twice a year, just didn't make sense to them when they could drive far more clicks by just having drivel come out on their website every so often. I mean, you have PC Gamer literally writing political articles now. Like they comment on the US political landscape, but it's like, do you know what your name is? You're PC Gamer. Why are you commenting on Donald Trump and Joe Biden's fight for elections? Like, what the hell does this matter to PC gamers? And it's all because they're desperately trying to hunt for the last few clicks that aren't just watching this shit on YouTube, right?
I mean, I will say on that topic, particularly on the Alyssa Mercante stuff, that a lot of the articles that she was writing to IGN and the way that she was conducting herself online, it definitely felt like it's just rage bait. Most of the stuff, it was straight up rage bait, and I was like, oh, I get it. I understand. You're just resorting to stuff that some YouTubers have done for ages. It's just straight up rage bait. Yep, yeah, I get it.
So yeah, that's the whole SmashJT getting scam thing. It's important, I think, to hold people accountable when they make mistakes. Absolutely. It doesn't mean, because mistakes will happen. It's how do you react once the mistake was made. And in this case, he brought out an entire new video that said, hey, I got. He also changed the title of the original video and said, see pinned comment, and in the pinned comment he links to the video where he explains he got caught and all the rest of it. And from his perspective, I have spoken to him. He doesn't want to erase the evidence. He doesn't want to make it didn't happen. He wants people to know, I did report on this. I was had. Here's the full story. Personally, I don't agree with him.
I would delete the video because you already have another video that says that, I fucked up. So that video will make sure that the evidence is not deleted while at the same time just removing the erroneous information from the thing. That's maybe not deleted, but unlisted, just so that it's not getting like pushed around in the algorithm.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, if you want the original one, here it is. Here's a link to it on that thing so that you can go watch it. And if you want to like use it to say bad shit about me, you can do that too.
Yeah.
Whatever. So maybe unlist it, but definitely get it out of the algorithm, because a lot of people don't read the whole thing about, see the pinned comment. They're like, they see the video, they didn't even look at the title. They just look at the thumbnail and they're like, okay, this thumbnail, click it, watch it, blah, 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 blah. So that would be the way that I would do it.
My personal opinion, I would do it the same way. He did DM me and say, this is what I'm doing. Do you think this is enough? And I said, hey, if this is what you feel is good enough, then go for it. I personally don't really mind that much because I think people should read titles and understand what titles mean. But hey, that's my own little gripe with a lot of people, including Mr. Daniel Vavra from KCD2, that reads titles as if they're facts and as if they are factually representative of what's being said. But anyways, it is what it is. That's the SmashJT stuff. And look, guys, it's not as if you're betraying Smash when you hold him accountable for this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a YouTuber, I want to be held accountable.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's how I grow. It's how I learn. It's how I get better.
You want to always tell the truth to people.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. So it's like, if I fuck up, I expect people to rake me over the coals. Even people that I know. Like, if I fuck up, I expect Accolonn to rake me over the coals. Like, it's that simple. It's not personal. It's holding you accountable. Like, whenever somebody asks me for feedback on something, I will straight up be brutally honest. Like, somebody recently asked me for feedback on their Monster Hunter video, and I was like, okay, listen, it takes you like a minute something to get into the topic. I think that's too much. Your thumbnail sucks. And I'm honest, because it's like anything other than that, when you're sugarcoating things, well, it's not that bad. You hand people with kid gloves, and it's like, no, bro, it's like, you just be real. Just don't be disrespectful, but just be truthful. That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, I don't want to win I don't want to win the debate. I want to be right.
Yeah.
So that's what it is for me.
No, not me. I want to win debates. Fuck that being right.
But all right, next drama, and we're sticking in the political sphere because someone asked me during the week. Well, not asked me. They accused me of making everything political. And why do I have to make everything political? And my answer to this is basically this next topic. If you didn't make things political first, I wouldn't need to make things political. I am simply covering what you guys are putting down. It's as simple as that. I had this guy yesterday announce on my video that he is leaving the channel because he's sick and tired of all the woke coverage. I'm like, bro, you want me to stop covering woke stuff? Stop putting woke stuff in your video games. As simple as that. Then I don't have to cover it. Then I can actually do reviews and talk about video games because that's what I like doing. If you come to my stream, we're constantly just nerding out about video games and talking about how fun video games are. I don't want to be talking about this political stuff, but you keep putting it in the games. And Greg Miller is our next topic. Now, Rurikhan, what's the juice?
So I thought it was interesting that apparently there was some Game Awards show that I wasn't even aware it was happening. I think it's the DICE. Is it DICE Game Awards or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's the DICE one.
And Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games, which has a very interesting name because I don't think they're that funny. They haven't been funny for a while. I remember him making like these Twitter posts where he was just like shitting all over PC gamers. And I know that it was a meme, but it's just like, it's not that funny, bro. It's just like, it was never particularly funny.
No.
And he goes on stage and then, he just goes out and says, fuck Donald Trump, fuck Elon Musk, whatever it is. And it's like, look, I don't think it's acceptable to just keep driving in the politics. I don't care for what side it is. Like, you could have the exact opposite. You could have, like, let's say, Asmongold going up on stage and saying, like, fuck Joe Biden. I don't think that would have been any more adequate to the situation. So it's like, it's a both side things. It's about video games and celebrating video games. So I don't understand why that needed to be a thing, but whatever.
Well, the thing with that is it was an entirely scripted piece of content, right? The whole thing was scripted. Yeah. I mean, you can listen to how they're jiving off of each other. He says a whole bunch of stuff about how he's making fun of Elon Musk for not playing his character, which is fine. That is still gaming adjacent, right? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
The girl goes.
I made fun of Elon Musk all the time over that Path of Exile 2 bullshit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What an idiot.
And then the girl goes, and she's like, "If you guys at home are angry about that, it was Greg Miller who said it. GREGM," and then he goes, ILLER. F Trump and F Elon Musk. It's this whole scripted little thing. So it wasn't even an organic moment. This suggests that the DICE organizers were also in on it. They desperately wanted to get their bit of political comedy in, which is not new, right?
Yeah,
We've had the Oscars, all the other movie nonsense was the Emmys. All of them have become super political, with every single presenter and actor having to give their little political speech before they actually just get to the thing that's supposed to be important there. You're at the DICE Game Awards. You should be awarding games for being good games. We should not be effing the president of the United States and effing Trump and Elon and effing. Like, what's the point of this?
It's weird that, you know, because again, it is supposed to be like some award celebration or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't need the political messaging there. And by the way, I'm not saying that you need to, because I know that some people will take this out of context and go like, oh yeah, Rurikhan's big Trump supporter. It's like, no, I don't care about politics, especially because I don't even live in the States. I live in Portugal, okay? I don't even care enough about my own country's politics, let alone a foreign country's politics to me. Like, I don't care. I'm here to talk about video games. That's the way that I've always conducted myself. It's like, hey, you like Kamala Harris or whatever, it's like, that's cool. Do you like video games? Cool. Here's what I think about this video game. You like Trump? Cool. You like this video game? Here's what I think about it. That's the way that I've always looked at it. You know, that's just the way that it is. I'm not here to judge people's political leanings one way or the other way. That's pretty much the way that I've always conducted myself. So yeah, when I see somebody go up on a game award shows and try to, especially because I'm assuming that looked like the opening ceremony of the thing. Yeah. So you're starting your award shows with Greg Miller going up on stage and saying some political stuff, and it's like, why?
Yeah. I mean, especially, dude, the industry has become such a circle jerk because
you want to know the interesting thing? I don't think I would have even known that the DICE Awards was happening if it wasn't for this happening.
Yeah, but that's why I said the industry has become such a circle jerk. You have this award show that no one knows is happening. Like, not a single person is aware that this award show is even taking place.
I wouldn't say a single person, but I understand what
all the
saying.
People in the room was aware that it was actually happening, although there might have been some that just actively woke up and went, where the hell am I? Like, why am I in this room with a bunch of other people? And it's all just there to circle jerk. Dragon Age the Veilguard is nominated for a bunch of bloody awards. Like, really? We're nominating Dragon Age the Veilguard? Diablo 4?
It was?
Yeah, it was nominated for a bunch of stuff.
Oh,
Diablo 4 is nominated for, I think, best multiplayer game or some shit like that. Diablo 4 is a really bad game. Like, it should not be nominated for anything. So the DICE Awards, all of these award shows are basically just drivel, right? Because the difference between...
I'm trying to see it right now.
The difference between Dragon Age tweeted it out. They tweeted out they're so humbled because they've been in a nominated.
Wait, let me see. So we have here outstanding achievement in animation, outstanding achievement in art direction. Oh, Space Marine was nominated for animation. Art direction, we have Hellblade, Indiana Jones. Black Myth Wukong was nominated there. That's actually pretty legit.
I mean, you even have, this is how desperately things are getting. The Canadian Game Awards, whatever the hell that is. Dragon Age the Vanguard wasn't just nominated. They won. They won. Best score and soundtrack, best audio design, best narrative, most innovative studio.
What?
Yeah. I literally just saw it.
No shot.
I literally just saw it, bro. Like, I'm on Twitter here, or X.
So wait, they won role-playing game of the year?
No, they won best score and soundtrack, best audio design, best narrative, and most innovative studio from the Canadian Game Awards.
Okay. It's a different celebration.
It's the Canadian.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the DICE Awards. Okay. So online game of the year, you're saying Diablo 4 won best online game of the year?
It was nominated. Here it is on Dragon Age's website on January the 10th. We're excited to share that Dragon Age the Vanguard has been nominated for role-playing game of the year at DICE 2025.
Yeah, it was.
Role-playing game of the year? Dude, what? Dragon Age?
There were not that many RPGs this year.
You imagine they just had to. They had to at least have a list.
This is why there were. Yeah, this is why at the Game Awards, like there were games in there that I remember. I was like, "That's not an RPG. What? What is this in this list?"
But it is just. You have Gaming Bible that also has Dragon Age the Vanguard in their Game of the Year pick.
It's like, look, at the end of the day, I've always said I don't care if people love Dragon Age. Hey, that's cool. I don't think it's worthy of awards, but it is what it is. People are going to disagree with it.
But I think what this speaks to, and why it's related to the Greg Miller stuff at the DICE Awards, with every single, I was scrolling X this morning, and I came across a very interesting post from an actual Democrat, right? So this isn't some Republican or conservative. This is an actual Democrat that started it off by sharing a post, right? I'm not going to get into what the post was, but basically a bunch of scientists refuting some claims that Trump has made. And the claims being refuted is so obviously false. Like, it is so obvious that what they're saying it isn't true. And he makes the point. He says, as someone that firmly believes, this is what he says, by the way, in climate change, this kind of stuff does damage, because you have scientists making objectively false claims in order to refute Trump. The ordinary person looks at those and goes, wait, these are the scientists that I need to trust on something like climate change, because it's also the scientists that say climate change is real. Why would I trust this? So you're basically just eroding trust in institutions in order to score political brownie points in the short term. And when you apply that, the reason I'm not going into detail is we are not a channel. You guys will be surprised at how many stories we cut because they're not gaming stories. They're not closely enough related to gaming stories for us to cover. The reason I bring this up and why I don't go into detail is because the same applies to things like game award shows. When you have award shows like DICE taking these cheap pot shots at political stuff, when you have things like this, where you have the Canadian Game Awards nominating Dragon Age the Vanguard for RPG of the Year, and you have Game Bible saying it is the game of the year, this erodes trust, because as an ordinary gamer that maybe played a little bit of Dragon Age the Vanguard, you go, wait, what? That game is like, why would you nominate that game?
I can understand why it would be game of the year for some people. I think that some people are definitely going to love it, but I think that probably a lot of the people that do love Dragon Age the Vanguard, they might not be people who played all of the other ones. Or if they are, clearly they didn't value the same things that a lot of us did, like choice, the narrative.
So I would say
actual cool dialogue between characters, stuff like that.
But I would say if you're a normal, ordinary gamer, so you're not tied to Game Awards, you're not tied to media or anything like that, you can have your favorite game, right? And your favorite game may not be anyone else's favorite game, and that's fine. Everyone's going to have different favorite games. For example, I am a pariah within the Mass Effect space because I actually didn't mind the ending of Mass Effect 3. Once they reworked it a little, I didn't mind it because I thought all 3 of the games were phenomenal. And yeah, the ending wasn't exactly fantastic, but it was good enough because I had super fun in the game. Is that a controversial opinion? Yes. Does it matter?
Yes.
No, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm just an ordinary guy. But if I had an award show and I put Mass Effect 3 up for best ending in an RPG ever as one of the nominees, that becomes a problem, right? Because I'm no longer objective, right? I'm now inserting my own views into my award show. And this is the problem.
This is why you shouldn't be the judge.
Yeah, you shouldn't be nominating things. You should leave it up to the players. And even if you are someone that sits here watching and going, dude, but I love Dragon Age the Velguard, you were one of a handful. We have the actual numbers. We know that the game wasn't played by that many people.
I would say there's more than a handful, but again, that doesn't mean anything. It's going to mean whatever it's going to mean for
the problem for me is still, I hope we get actual sales figures for Dragon Age the Velguard. Because EA
have said
1.5 million people engaged with Dragon Age the Velguard. That is not 1.5 million copies sold, right? That can mean so many different things to so many different people. So I would love to see actual sales figures, but clearly the game wasn't good. If you're going to be the award show director for any award show that needs to be credible, you cannot in good conscience put that game up for an award. The same goes for something like this Greg Miller stuff. If you're the director of a game award show that should be taken seriously, you don't want your presenters to be mouthing off political bullshit that is clearly pre-planned, pre-scripted. You know that it is coming, and yet you signed off on it. I realize you might hate Donald Trump, but you are in a game sphere where gamers vote very differently. Some vote left, some vote right, some don't vote at all, right? But you have to keep in mind, this is your player base. This is who you need to be adhering to. I find it awkward, like seriously awkward.
Yeah, I think it's weird that they did it. At the end of the day, I don't care too much because, you're supposed to be free to say whatever the hell you want. So if you want to go ahead and say that, that's fine. But again, you are going to be alienating a lot of people that probably didn't do anything to upset you, I would imagine. At least they shouldn't have. But yeah, it's I don't know. The whole whenever stuff starts getting too political, I just think it's weird because I don't engage in the political stuff, and I'm just like, I just want to play video games. I like this, you like that, whatever. Have at it.
I'll give you guys why this is so dangerous. Back in 2014, games media was considered the premier voice in news. You wanted the news, you go to the mainstream media. IGN, who's the guys you worked for? TGN.
TGN was never mainstream media. TGN was a YouTube multi-channel network.
Yeah, but TGN was still, people went to TGN for reviews and for stuff. I went to TGN quite a lot, actually.
You did?
Yeah. Okay. I remember TGN very well, actually.
I remember I reviewed Diablo 3 on PlayStation 4 on TGN. Yeah, that video got popular.
For me, it was usually, I would look at reviews from IGN. I would look at reviews from TGN. I would look at reviews from, what were they called? Can't remember now. It wasn't Kotaku, but it was one of those. I would look at those reviews, and if they gave it
Polygon?
a thumbs up, I think it was Polygon. If they gave it a thumbs up, I would be like, oh, so this is probably a good game. Then came 2014 with the Anita Sarkeesian, the first Gamergate. And the media in 2014, 2015, and 2016 destroyed all credibility because they backed Anita Sarkeesian to the hilt. Every single journalist was all in on Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn. Then it comes out that Zoe Quinn not only didn't care at all about any of this, scammed her own people out of a lot of money.
People, yep.
Yeah. And then just ran with the money, like just rug pulled it and left. Anita Sarkeesian eventually comes out and admits this was never about gaming. I don't even play video games. It was always just about social politics for me. And the media don't even admit to this. They try and hide it. It's the YouTubers that reveal that Anita Sarkeesian is doing these things. So the mainstream media over 3 years destroyed all of their credibility. And now we're running the same thing with Game Awards shows. Things like DICE, because there was once upon a time, DICE was they were never considered the premier award show for gaming, but they were an award show that people sort of followed. They're destroying their reputation now. The Game Awards kind of went that way, but not with politics stuff. The Game Awards almost destroyed their...
It's more about ads.
Yeah. Eventually it was the Ad Awards show with some games sprinkled in once upon a time. Like, I remember watching it like 3 or 4 years ago, where it would legitimately be one game, then a shit ton of ads, then another game, and you'd just be sitting there going, dude, what the fuck? Why am I like, this is just ads at this point. Like, what am I watching? But they're destroying their credibility. And once the credibility is gone, it's gone forever. You're not getting that shit back, right? It's dangerous to our gaming industry when things like this become political. If you want to have a political game show, do it, but then be upfront. Look, we're political. We're only for left-wingers. We're only for right-wingers. We don't care about anything else. At least then people know, right? So if you want to be like a game show that is political, do anti-woke game show. What's interesting about the real Game Awards, they weren't political at all. One of the games that won is made by a trans person as the lead, and they won because
we talked about
this.
Yeah.
The viewers were the ones who voted. It was the real Game Awards as viewers voted for it. I don't know. I think Greg Miller is just making himself out to be further or more of a clown than ever before.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
It's just, again, to me, I just wish that we can just get back to talking about video games, what's good about video games. And, if you want to be, you can also talk about video games and be political if that's what you want. Mm-hmm. But, it is what it is. I'm more interested in talking about games. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I just got an email saying that Solasta 2, their demo is out today and you can play the demo. And I'm already super excited to play that demo, make a video about my experiences of the demo, what it felt like. And I already know I'm probably going to spend the whole weekend covering some woke bullshit because it's been put in a video game. I'm not saying Solasta is woke. I'm talking about I want to play Solasta, but there's going to be stories coming out about woke bullshit that's put in our video games that I'm going to have to cover instead of just being able to play Solasta the demo.
This is very self-inflicted, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is self-inflicted, but remember, from my perspective, this stuff matters, right? I believe
I get it.
This culture war is important because if we lose it, Dragon Age the Veilguard is the games that we have to look forward to. This is all games will be Dragon Age the Veilguard if we lose this culture war.
Yeah.
So, from my perspective, I'm fighting the good fight. You can all thank me later. But okay, so on to another story that should not even have been a story, but because it was used to own the chuds, it became a story. Marvel layoffs. Marvel rival layoffs. Yeah. I'll get into how this relates to the chuds, the gamers.
You're gonna make this about woke? Like, it's just a bunch of people lost their job. I thought that was the whole story.
No.
Marvel.
A bunch of people did just lose their jobs. That is literally the story. Marvel Rivals, the main studio, which is on mainland China, by the way, which is nowhere near Seattle, America, they laid off the entire support studio that is located in Seattle as part of a restructuring drive. Based on everything that I've heard from insider sources, not on this story, but on support studios for Ubisoft, for example, support studios are actually super bad for game design. They slow things down significantly, not because support studios aren't necessarily doing good work, but because of the increased logistical challenges that support studios introduce. So unless your game design is pipelined in such a way that the support studio fits in perfectly, it actually just introduces a bunch of new barriers. Because you have the support studio, which means you have to use the support studio. But what if your game design pipeline doesn't really require the support studio? And apparently, according to their official statement, this was literally the extent of the news. They didn't need the support studio anymore. And so the support studio was laid off.
It's kind of weird, though, because apparently one of the people laid off was like the game director or whatever on this side of things.
No, he was just the director of that support studio. He wasn't the game director anyway, but he was the director of that studio.
I still think it kind of sucks that basically they just go like, oh yeah, we're going to hire you guys. We're going to make this game. Oh yeah, it was super successful. And now bye.
Yeah, but I would
it's kind of dirty.
Yeah, but
it's dirty. Let's just be real.
It is Chinese, right? It is China. These guys have nets around factories so that people can't jump out and kill themselves, but need to get back to work. Like you can jump out, get back inside after, and get to work, right? So they're not known for their humane treatment of workers in the first place.
True.
So it is important to notice this. But then also just, I think, if I were to guess, I would think this studio most likely opened a support studio in America to try and help them figure out the landscape in America. And I'm talking from a cultural perspective. Remember, you have Chinese developers making a game from a Chinese perspective, not necessarily sure what the cultural drives are of Americans, like what would work in America, the kind of jokes, the kind of comedy, the kind of this. Would it work in America? Because it works in China. Because remember, comedy is actually incredibly cultural. Things that are funny in South Africa will not be funny in the rest of the world, even though South Africans would absolutely can themselves. Just look at Trevor Noah. Was considered very funny back in South Africa, not funny at all in the rest of the world, even though people, for some reason, glaze him. But this is just, it's a cultural phenomenon most of the time. Comedy is cultural. And I am assuming that's why they got this studio, only to realize that they don't really need that studio because it is a Euro shooter. It is landing. All of the decisions that they wanted to make landed with the Western audience. And
I still feel like the support studio probably helped quite a bit, but they just got to the point where it's like, okay, we understand how things work now. We don't need you anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah.
It feels very, very transactional, which is one thing if you are contracted in a way where it's like, okay, listen, this is a temp work.
Yeah.
So, when we're done with this, then, you're going to be let go.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, but it doesn't seem like anybody expected it. It just feels like everybody's like, oh, this came out of nowhere. The game's super successful. Why are we being laid off? Like, that's the part that's kind of weird.
It does feel bad, but I think also at the same time, it was kind of, I guess, they should have always expected it. Because, it is China. Right. And I think you're absolutely spot on, by the way. I think you're absolutely spot on.
I don't think they should have expected it unless it was communicated to them. Like, I don't go into a partnership with somebody expecting them to it's almost like a scam in a way. Because like if you and I go into business together, right? And we're like, okay, we're partners in this, let's get this down, blah, blah. It's completely different than me like, okay, Accolonn, I'm hiring you to edit my videos for like 3 months. And if things work out, we might keep going. If things don't work out, we're going to go our separate ways. And that's fine. But again, I don't know what the business dealing was between this support studio and the people in China. Like if they told them like, listen, we're going to work on the first year of development. I don't know how many years they worked together. We're going to work on this and then we'll see where we go in the future. That's one thing. But if they told them like, we're a studio, we're working together. This is our baby. Let's go.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden they just like cut him off. I'm like, okay, that's dirty.
Okay, that's say they shouldn't have expected it. What if you and I went into a partnership and my name was NetEase?
I keep forgetting. That's right. The skin job company.
Dude, if you didn't expect that this guy in the studio is going to kill you, what the hell are you doing?
For a second, I forgot this. This is developed by NetEase. I forgot about that. Oh, my God. Yep. You know what? I reported on NetEase back in them Diablo Immortal days, bro. I told you all you needed to know about that. You should have seen this coming a mile away.
That's why I said they should probably have seen this coming.
Of course they should have.
Yeah, it is NetEase, right? That's doing this. So you should have expected
These people have no morals, like zero morals. I keep waiting for them to fuck up Marvel Rivals. I actually forgot about that.
I mean, Marvel Rivals is apparently doing super well. It's just crossed, I think, 40 million players.
They'll get there.
Yeah. They'll
once
eventually.
They get to the part. Once they get to the part where you're going to reach into your wallet, because they're reaching in there with a dildo on one hand. You know, they got the 5 fingers coming in for your wallet, and on the other hand, they have a big dildo.
Yeah,
it's like, we're going to steal your wallet and fuck you in the ass.
I mean, here's the thing. Most of the time, this greed doesn't come out until the game is in trouble. That's just usually how it works. Once the game is in trouble, that's when the greed starts to come out.
In Diablo Immortal's case, the greed came out straight from the get-go.
Yeah, but
straight from the get-go.
Dude, I have to be honest with you. After watching Bobby Kotick's podcast, and then looking at things like Destiny 2, looking at what World of Warcraft became after Bobby left Activision, I'm going to be honest with you. I think that greed came from Blizzard. I think that greed, the things that they wanted in that game, I think that came from Blizzard. I hate to say it, but look at Blizzard, right? Everyone kept thinking that Bobby Kotick was the reason for all of the super greedy shit. Bobby Kotick leaves, and Blizzard becomes not less greedy, more greedy. I'll remind people, early access did not happen under Bobby Kotick. Bobby Kotick wasn't the reason for millions of mounts being added to the game when the game was sucky. So I personally just sort of, I don't know. I think a lot of game studios are just beyond greedy. But to the Marvel layoffs, to put the record straight for anyone, because this is where it was used to own the chuds. Immediately you had people like Alyssa Marcante and all of the journalists going, but we were told by the chuds that only games that are woke fail and lay people off. And now look at this game, super successful, and is laying people off, right? And these journalists that were going after SmashJT saying this is why YouTubers can't be journalists because they don't fact check their sources and you should trust the mainstream media, all of them reported that this was the actual developers of the game that was laid off, right? They all on Twitter pretended like these were the actual people that made the game and not just a support studio. Because when I woke up to this news, my entire Twitter feed made it sound like the studio that worked on Marvel Rivals, that made Marvel Rivals, had just been laid off. And then it takes 5 seconds to quickly go to NetEase's Twitter page and see their response to it. That goes, it's the support studio in Seattle. The main team with the main game director and everyone is still in mainland China making video games, right? Working on Marvel Rivals. And you just go, wait, you guys are the trusted source in media and news? Like, really? You're not very trusted when it suits your political needs.
Like I said, there's problems in mainstream media for sure. Like, it's not all of them, but there's some people in there that it is what it is.
Oh, yeah. Then our next story, in sticking with Dave and Dave News, you didn't see the drama that happened on LinkedIn with Asmongold and Dave's?
No. I have no idea.
All right. So this is actually incredibly interesting. So there's a developer. Their names are all blacked out, so you can't see who it is. But there's a developer on LinkedIn that announces in a post that he watches regularly Asmongold videos and learns from Asmongold because he explains he thinks it's very important if you're going to make a video game to look at that side of your consumer base as well, to see how those people react. And he often finds that the comments on Asmongold's videos are far more informative than even Asmongold's videos themselves, because it tells you what that side of the gaming audience wants and what they like. And it's important because it helps him challenge his own biases. Like the things that he believes is oftentimes not the same as what gamers believe. This leads to a meltdown, right? To the point where he actually has to add an edit saying, hey, if you're gonna attack me purely because you don't like Asmongold, that's fine, but keep in mind that these are your actual players. And I didn't say that you have to politically agree with Asmongold. I just said that it is important to keep an open mind and always be open to learning and challenging your own biases. And then you go from the developers that is commenting on his post. It is nuts. The amount of guys that literally
I'm not surprised.
The amount of developers that literally just say, I don't give a shit about those consumers. They do not get to play my game. I'm not making games for them. I don't want them. And I look at games like Avowed. I look at games like Dragon Age Velguard. I look at Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Dustborn, and I just go, well, you're also not going to have a studio before long, so, keep going, I guess.
It's like, it's an interesting thing when it comes to Asmongold. I don't agree with a lot of his political takes or whatever. But it's not even about agreeing or disagreeing. It's more like, I don't care. I don't consume most of his political content. I usually am just curious to see, okay, video games. And so something that happened recently was Asmongold started playing my main weapon in Monster Hunter, which is the gun lance.
Yeah, you told us about this. Yes,
yeah,
last week. Yeah.
Oh, I did. I think.
I don't remember. You told me. I'm not sure if you told the podcast.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about this last week. I might have, because my memory is terrible. But basically,
he's getting old now, boys. Soon he's gonna have a walking stick, and we're gonna have to call him Grandpa.
I'm already limping. I'm already limping from my bum leg, dude. It's messed up. But yeah, so he goes in and he goes fight against the one of the big bosses of the beta with my weapon, and I'm just like, oh, this will be cool to make a breakdown, make an educational video, all of that. And a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people were upset that I was covering, and I'm like, I'm not covering his views on Trump or anything. I'm covering him using the gun lance.
Yeah.
This, and it allows me to teach people better ways of using the gun lance. Why does this need to be political? To the point where somebody was in there talking about his dead mother, and I was like, bro, what are we talking? You have no idea what the situation was. Stop. That's messed up.
I will say what's funny. I received this comment once, and funnily enough, on the developer's post, there was another person that commented this saying, do not give a platform to this hateful piece of shit or something. And I remember thinking, I'm giving Asmongold a platform? What are you talking about? The dude is 200 times bigger than I am. I'm not giving him a platform. I'm at best utilizing his platform for my own gains. I'm not giving him a platform.
It's listen, I understand that a lot of people don't like Asmongold. I get it. You're entitled not to like Asmongold.
Yeah, of course.
But the content that I made about Asmongold was specifically, here's a Monster Hunter thing that Asmongold is doing. Here are the things that he is doing wrong and how he can improve. And here's how you can learn from this.
Yeah.
There's no roaches. There's no dead rat alarm clock. There's no political take. It's just Monster Hunter, specifically Gunlance, which is like my main specialty. It's like I don't understand because and here's the thing, right? I often consume media that I don't agree with. I mean, like we always say, that's kind of like the point of this podcast. Even we debate things that we don't agree with. And I think it's important to challenge your own views on the world. Otherwise, you do fall into the risk of just falling into an echo chamber where, everybody just kind of like reinforces, and maybe those views that you have are not the most correct ones. It's important to keep challenging them.
Oh, yeah.
But, I guess a lot of people don't agree with that, and that's fine. It is what it is.
But I think from a YouTuber perspective, that's one thing. To hear it from a developer, to hear from developers that I don't give a shit about these people, I'm not making games for them, it's like, oh. Because these aren't studio leads. These aren't the executives. These aren't the owners of the studios. These are the developers working for a studio that, by the way, is trying to stay afloat, trying to make money so that your salary can continue to be paid.
At the end of the day, I think developers should be free. I've always been a developer freedom absolutist. Like, listen, you want to make your game, I want you to bring your vision into reality. I want the least amount of input from people to dictate what you are allowed to do. But at the same time, if you're going to alienate a bunch of people, you do so at your own risk. It is what it is. So it's like if developers want to make more Dustborns and more Dragon Age the Veilguards, good on you. Thing is, if you're going to make a Dragon Age the Veilguard 2, personally, I'm not playing it. I played the first one, did everything there was to do in the first one, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So, and it has nothing to do with how woke it was or whatever. It has to do with the dialogue and the garbage story.
Which is also because of woke DI, but that's a different discussion. It sucked because of those things. I know people don't want to hear it, but it does suck because of those things.
Move right along.
But fundamentally, my problem is, if you just wanted to go out and make your own games and that's it, no problem. But we continuously get the blame for not wanting to play these games. This developer openly says, screw them, I'm not making my games for them. I'm making my game for the modern audience. Right? Then
that's fine.
We don't play the game because they tell us this isn't
also
for you.
Fine.
Right? Then we get blamed for being misogynist and racist because we didn't play their game.
That's the part that I don't agree with. I think that it's like if somebody doesn't want to play Dustborn or Dragon Age the Veilguard, I think that's fine.
Yeah,
and I don't
agree.
think that I don't think that the mainstream media gets to go out there, because I have seen articles like, gamers are bad and evil and blah. It's like, what do you mean? You wanted to make this game. People told you they didn't want this game, and now you're complaining about why this game didn't sell. No, you don't get to do that part. You get to make the game that you want, absolutely, and I will fight to the death for your right to make the game that you want with whatever it is that you want on that game.
You and the 5 people that want to play it.
You're negatively charging it. I'm like, no, I'm happy if the game is even successful. I don't care. It's just a matter of
the issue is it's never successful.
If it's not successful, you then don't get to come back and criticize the audience that didn't buy the game when you told them specifically that the game wasn't for them.
Yeah, but this is exactly my problem as well. I agree with everything you just said there. I don't like the fact that I'm being blamed after doing what you told me. I didn't want to play your game. I asked you to change it so that you could get my money. You said, no, screw you. I don't want you playing my game. I said, okay, fine. I'll go play something else. And now the game comes out. I'm just over here living my merry life. And then suddenly I get blamed for your game failing after I told you I don't want this game.
It's kind of like recently I did a stream where I was trying to paint miniatures. It was a bit of a fail because my setup wasn't good enough and I had some issues. But, I like the stream, but it was a stream that was much more underwhelming than my usual content. And so it's like, I might make that stream again, but I'm not going to blame my audience for not showing up. It's like, hey, you guys didn't want it to watch it. I still felt like streaming it. And, sometimes because I want to do something that's a little bit out there, it might not work. And it is what it is. It's not their fault that they didn't find it entertaining. It's just, it is what it is. And I can keep doing it at my own detriment, which I might, but that's my own decision.
Yeah,
and,
I
eventually I might stop doing it.
I mean,
but they don't have to watch it.
To put it into perspective for like viewers that might not fully understand, because I know a lot of you come from Rurikhan's channel. Imagine if From Software announced Elden Ring 2, but with The Witcher 3 combat system. All of you would be like, bro, we don't want this. Why are you making this? Now, I need to be full disclosure. I don't mind The Witcher 3 combat system, but even I am able to admit that Elden Ring's combat system is a hell of a lot better than The Witcher 3's, right? You would all say, bro, we don't want this. And if Miyazaki then came out and said, I don't care what you want. This is what I want to make. You don't buy, if you don't like it, don't buy it. And then the game comes out. Let's call it Monster Hunter Witcher Edition. It comes out. None of you buy it because why the hell would I? Or not Monster Hunter, Elden Ring Witcher Edition. It comes out and none of you play it because you didn't want this in the first place. And then suddenly there's a bunch of articles out there blaming you for being racist towards Japanese people because you didn't want to play the Japanese Witcher 3. And it's like, dude, I told you I don't want this. You said it's not for you. I believed you. And now I'm to blame for your failures.
Funnily enough, Miyazaki actually takes a different approach because you know how there's a lot of people that would usually say like, oh, the game's too hard and we need an easy mode and blah, 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 blah. And Miyazaki's like, we think the difficulty is just right in order to give you that sense of achievement when you're done. And I hope that you give it a shot. Yeah. He never goes and is like, it's not for you. He's like, we think this is like, listen, Miyazaki even said at one point, listen, even me, I struggle to finish these games. I use all of the tools that I have in the game. Like I bring in the summons. I do all of the things. I hope you guys take advantage of that too. And you enjoy my video game. That's usually the way that he speaks. He does not go out there and starts like, it's not for you. Don't buy it. No, he's like, no, listen, I want you guys to play it. Yeah. I hope that you enjoy it, but this is my creative vision.
But it is because he respects his audience.
Fucking based because he's the basest, the most based of based.
Yeah,
that's why.
He also respects his audience, right? And that's what you should do. Respect the people that might potentially buy your game. Treat them with the respect that they deserve. Because you are ultimately not there if they're not there. This is just it. Yep. It's the same with YouTubers. The reason YouTubers can't go around disrespecting their audience is when you remove the audience from the YouTuber, you now just have a homeless man with a very expensive camera. That's basically what it is, right? So
homeless man.
Well, yeah, you know,
that's wild.
So fundamentally, it's just trust your audience, believe them when they tell you they don't want certain things, and if you are truly convinced that no, I want this in my game. Be sure to explain it to them. Yeah, and budget appropriately.
I would budget appropriately.
Yeah. Maybe next time you want to put Tash in a video game, you don't spend $250+ million on your game. Okay, now on to some... Well, I haven't watched the video yet. I'm going to be watching it tonight during the live stream. So
the Mark Darrah video?
Rurikhan, what happened with Mark Darrah?
Mark Darrah made a video where he is saying that you shouldn't be cheering on people getting laid off. And I don't know, again, I haven't followed this like super closely. And to me, it's like I never cheer people getting laid off, but I do cheer when studios are crashing out after doing some seriously heinous shit.
Yeah.
Which happens to be the case for Ubisoft, for instance. I think Ubisoft is specifically mentioned in his video. Is like, you shouldn't be celebrating Ubisoft exploding. And I was like, well, Ubisoft shouldn't be trying to fucking nickel and dime me every chance that they goddamn can, which is the main thing that I care about. So yes, I will celebrate Ubisoft crashing out. I hate the fact that a lot of their developers are, probably getting laid off. I mean, they have been getting laid off repeatedly at Ubisoft. But at the end of the day, that's not my fault.
No.
I didn't fucking brutally overhire when COVID showed up. And I hate the fact that we lose a lot of talent in this industry because of the fact that Ubisoft's leadership is absolute dog shit at doing their job. But the reality of the situation is most studios never see any consequences for their leadership. We see this all the time. Like the studios implode, they keep firing people, and the leadership stays the same.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, I will celebrate when Ubisoft stock is crashing down. I'm sorry that people are losing their job, but this is the only way that this industry is going to heal itself. It fucking sucks. I hate seeing people lose their job. I never celebrate people losing their job. But Ubisoft stock crashing down, yeah, I fucking celebrate that. Fuck them. Fucking sucks.
To my mind, what I have seen, because I haven't watched the video yet, I'm going to be reacting to that live tonight.
Yeah.
But I have seen a bunch of the excerpts from the video. And to this, it is genuinely just what we spoke about a little bit earlier. It's this whole, we want to be able to do what we want to do, and we refuse to deal with the consequences of what we do. Because he goes on to say, like, the very title is, your $70 does not buy your cruelty. You're not allowed to be cruel for your $70. It's like, hold on, bro. Why are we consistently pretending like it's the gamers that started this war between gamers and developers? Gamers didn't start this. There was a time, and I wish I could make this clear to developers. There was a time where game developers were considered rock stars to gamers.
I still consider some developers rock stars. Absolutely.
Some, but it's a lot less now, right? I consider people like Miyazaki, people like Hideo Kojima. These are people that I consider to be actual rock stars. Even the dude that's now currently making Exodus. Oh, bro, did you see the new gameplay? It's like 11 minutes of Go Carnage. Oh, that game's gonna be good, bro.
I need to see that.
Like, he actually stated, and he made this super clear when Co Carnage asks him, "What is this mostly like?" And he was like, "Well, I think if you're a fan of like Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age Origins, this is gonna be your game."
Oh my god, bro.
Yeah. And he actually waits Dragon Age Origins. So he makes very clear that he's talking
Dragon Age, the good one.
Yes, that's the one. Right? These are people I consider to be rock stars. Even the guys that's after Rebel Wolves. The new game that's coming from the new studio, Rebel Wolves.
The guys from that used to be in CD Projekt Red, yeah.
Yeah, the reason I consider them rock stars is these are the guys behind Witcher 3, right? And Witcher 3 was an absolutely phenomenal video game. Chris Mason is considered a rock star because he has a track record in the industry of being a very good storyteller. But this used to be almost applied universally to game developers. Gamers loved their developers because these guys were the ones who made our entertainment. So where did this change? In 2014. Almost everything that is happening today in the gaming industry can be traced back to 2014, when gamers were suddenly out of nowhere being called racist by everyone, including our game developers. And gamers were just like, bro, I'm just out here playing Metal Gear Solid. What the fuck's going on? Like, what? I'm not part of the KKK. What is happening? Right? They started this war. You constantly see developers telling gamers to shut the hell up and you don't matter and we don't care about you.
It's one of the biggest issues in online discourse, which is generalization. It's just you just grab like the small minority of something and just be like, yep, this is all of you guys now. I see it all the time when it comes to, because of the fact that I'm a part of the Monster Hunter community and Dark Souls community, I see it all of the time where somebody just comes in and will say, Monster Hunter is literally the most toxic community ever. And I'm just like, what are you what?
Yeah.
You're insane. Like there's just something fundamentally wrong with you. Yeah. There's no way that anyone would ever agree to this. You're crazy.
But it's sort of the same thing when people say, for example, League of Legends community is the most toxic ever. I'm like, dude.
No, but they are.
No, but the thing is, you can play 20 games in League of Legends, and in one of those games, you'll have one person that acts like a complete dick and kind of makes the game not fun to play. But that's still a crap ton of people you just played with. 100 out of 100 people, one guy was toxic. And if you think if you think that that's not that bad, remember Riot was one of the front runners that vowed to remove toxicity from video games because gamers are toxic. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Gamers are toxic.
Gamers are the ones that's being attacked by developers. And now that gamers are finally fighting back and no longer feeling sorry for these developers being laid off from studios that keep producing the biggest amount of drivel. Now,
I still feel sorry. I don't want anybody to lose their job. It's a terrible position to be in.
I don't hold that same sort of vigor. I only hold that for studios that deserve it. So if it's a studio that genuinely just fell upon hard times and, you know, made a couple of mistakes or tried something big and bold, but it failed, I go, all right, you know, fine, they're going through hard times now. I feel sorry for those developers. But a lot of the developers that are being laid off in the current era are developers from studios that were saying to gamers, shut the hell up, we don't care about you, these games aren't made for you.
It's not always how it works, but you want to know somebody I wouldn't be sorry for them losing their job? Mm-hmm. Somebody at a senior position at Ubisoft. So, well, yep. I mean, when I say at a senior position, I'm talking like leadership position, not necessarily development, but like leadership, you know, organizing teams, doing all that stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Get fucked. Yeah, Same thing for guys at like Destiny, especially the guy who buys like fucking 50,000 classical cars and then fires like half of his team. That guy loses his job, get fucked. Yeah. You and your 50 classical cars, okay? Get fucked, bro. I don't care. So, but actual developers, like people that are earning like a salary and, you know, they're just like making it day by day. Yeah, I don't celebrate. Even if they worked on Dustborn, like fucking sucks if they lose their job. Absolutely.
You see, I don't hold that same energy because
that's fine.
If you were a developer making just this super woke game and you just stayed in your lane, made your game, went home, no problem. Yes. Then I would feel sorry for you losing your job. But that's not how they act. They attack gamers outright for literally everything. And then suddenly when they lose their jobs, now they want to sit there and pretend like, oh, you guys, you know, you don't understand it. Life's so hard. You should feel sorry for us. It's like, no. Actions meet your consequences. Shut the hell up and take your consequences. You made this what it is. And I know a lot of people will point out, yeah, but dude, they didn't, they're not the ones who made these decisions. I'm like, yeah, but they are the ones who celebrated it. I see their Twitter feeds. I see them telling gamers that this is the greatest game ever. You could have just shut the hell up. I get it. If you're a developer working on the next Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can't come out and tweet, this is the worst game I've ever made in my life, right? That's not a tweet that you can make. But how about you don't tweet out, this is the greatest Assassin's Creed game I've ever made? How about you don't try and swindle people into pre-purchase?
Maybe he only worked on one Assassin's Creed game, so that's the greatest one he's ever made.
Yeah, well, then you should probably put that in your tweet.
Because like you said that a while back in another show, I remember you said that like apparently a lot of the people who are working on Assassin's Creed Shadows, they're like junior developers. It's like 50%. Their first... It's like their first... So of course it's the best one they've ever worked on yet. Yeah. It's the only one they've ever worked on yet.
You see, I don't...
Might be the only one they'll ever work in.
Yeah, there are developers. So... Right. You see, my sympathy and empathy to developers getting laid off isn't blanket. I don't feel sorry for every developer that gets laid off. I tend to look at the Twitter feeds. I look at their sort of track record. And if it is truly just the developer that stayed in their lane, you go to their Twitter feed and it's a bunch of cat pictures. They never tweeted anything political. They never attacked anyone. They never sort of involved themselves in anything. Then I feel sorry for that person because that person really probably just followed orders, right? They just did what they were told and they did their job. And now they're losing their job because of a bunch of decisions that had nothing to do with them. But if you're someone like Corinne Bush and Corinne Bush gets laid off, I am not feeling sorry. You deserve that. That is your baby. You made this happen for yourself. Now, of course, Corinne Bush would never be laid off because Corinne Bush...
I don't think she got laid off, yeah.
No, Corinne Bush is protected.
She's just like, yeah, I think I'm good. I've set this whole place on fire. It's nice and toasty in here, and I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Probably on
Enjoy.
the way out, just looked back and saw there's like one corner that's not yet on fire and went, oh, I'll fix that. And just sprayed a bit of, flame accelerant there as well, just to make sure that it all burns nice and even. Yeah. And then also lock the doors behind him so that no one could follow out. Everyone's stuck inside going, help us. And then Andrew Wilson walks in and goes, all right, boys.
You guys are working on Mass Effect now. And
Corinne Bush is just leaving. But, it is...
Golden parachute.
Yeah, I hate the fact that developers are now playing victim. It's like, nah, bro. You started this war, we didn't. We loved you. We celebrated you. Your victories were our victories. When Blizzard became a multi-billion-dollar company, gamers weren't angry at the greedy billion-dollar company. Gamers were celebrating it because this was Blizzard. They deserved to be noticed and recognized for the brilliance that is their video games. And then, of course, you turn on your gamers, and now you want sympathy from us. No, sorry, you don't get sympathy. You don't get to tell me that my $70 doesn't buy cruelty. My $70 buys me whatever the hell I want it to buy me. I want a good game. If you don't deliver a good game and then continuously gaslight me into thinking I should think this is a good game, my $70 buys me whatever the hell I want it to buy me. And if that is cruelty from the gamers, go for it. You deserve it. Where I draw the line, and I will say this, and I have publicly stated this before, death threats are a no-go. Be cruel. Tell the developer to suck a D.
I think there's more... I think there's more than just death threats. I think that family is also like...
Yeah, but I sort of include that in I should say physical violence is an absolute no-go. You don't threaten physical violence.
Yeah, physical violence, but what I'm also saying is like publicly outing people's families that have nothing to do with this, which I have seen often. I'm like, okay, that is no.
Yeah, but to my mind...
That's fucked up.
Period. To my mind, that falls inside the threat of physical violence because the only reason you're revealing someone's family member is because you're hoping someone does something.
Family, doxing, all of that. No, that's too far. Yeah, too far.
Keep it online, effectively.
Keep it online. Keep it online and keep it at the very least...
on point.
Strictly towards the person that you are talking with. And again... None of this like, oh, I can go onto the dark web with one Bitcoin and we can solve this problem right quick. Because there's a lot of people that like to go down that route, and it's like, bro, like stop. This is like online beef.
Luckily,
like, fucking chill.
Luckily, the funny thing about that is the guys who are writing, I could go on the dark web with one Bitcoin, first doesn't have one Bitcoin. Otherwise, they wouldn't be writing that shit on a YouTube video. And two, they don't even know how to get on the dark web. So you're perfectly fine with those guys. Because trust me, as someone that has tried to get on the dark web before just for curiosity's sake, it's not that easy. You actually need a lot of setup in order to get onto the dark web.
You need like a proper browser, a proper
and I
proper
stopped.
Protection. Yeah,
I stopped short because as soon as I thought, okay, let's go check this out, I realized, wait, what do I actually want to see here? Not really much. I just want to know, does it exist? But then also, remember, that is a part of the web that has zero safety built in. Zero. It's not like you go to a website that actually has some antivirus checks. There's no checks there. So if your computer gets infected, it gets infected with like the wildest shit ever. So I was like, nah, never mind. It's not even waste of time here.
It's worse than the Wild Wild West down there. It's the fucking Dark Ages. So just chill.
It's like a seriously bad place. But I'm curious. I do at one point want to get like a programmer that maybe has been in the dark web just to, because I watch a lot of these documentaries from like the dark web and the shit that happens in the dark web. And so, yeah, I just, I hate the fact that developers are playing these games where they create the problems, and then when the gamers clap back, then suddenly it's like, oh, wait, guys, come on, like don't attack us. We're just little old developers. It's like, no, they're not.
It's like, again, so long as we keep stuff online, I think everything should be fine. I do wish that people weren't quite as nasty as they get sometimes, but it is what it is. It's the internet. You're not going to be able to filter it, and at the end of the day, I wouldn't necessarily want it filtered. Like, I get nasty comments all the time too. It is what it is.
Yeah,
if you're somebody who's out there and outspoken, it's going to happen.
I always try to be very respectful. I didn't used to. There used to be a time where I would be very, very sort of mean. I mean, I had a special nickname for Bobby Kotick. That rhymes with aunt. I was very, very toxic for a long time until I realized that that's not the way to build bridges. That's not the way to get people to see what
you never.
Yeah.
You will never get somebody to see your point of view if you are being disrespectful, is the point that I'm at. And this goes for pretty much everyone, which is why whenever somebody leaves me like a nasty comment, I try to see the most good faith interpretation of that comment first, and then I will post my reply. And then if the person is just immediately even nastier in the next one, then I'm like, okay, I'm done interacting with you. You're just a nasty bastard that just wants to say nasty shit. And that's fine. You're free to do that, whatever. But I always try to engage in good faith as much as I can.
Yeah,
that's the.
I mean, I think I try to do the same. It's hard with some things, because there are things where you just go, dude, come on. But never mind. It is what it is. We'll just sort of move on to the next topic. For those of you that might be thinking the show feels a little bit stop-starty, it is. We're having a lot of interruptions.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
All right. Rurikhan's owning it. But we are having a lot of interruptions. Rurikhan is in pain, but also having to deal with a crap ton of real life stuff. So just know that's why it might feel a little bit stop-starty. And also because I'm editing this for the first time ever, so obviously it's probably going to be not that great. But okay, so now we have a story that's a lot in your alley. It's like your valley here.
So this is Shuei Yoshida, who used to work at Sony. He was one of the big dogs over at Sony. Mm-hmm. And he's been doing a lot of interviews talking about his tenure at Sony and all of that stuff. And in a recent interview, he was talking about how Sony didn't pass on Dark Souls. FromSoftware passed on Sony. So it means that at some point, Sony probably wanted to have Dark Souls be like a PlayStation exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And Miyazaki was like, no. And the reason why is because of how they were treated during Demon Souls. And this is something that I can definitely relate to, which is the fact that I feel like the PlayStation brand doesn't really give the due value to the branch that they used to have of Sony Japan. Sony Japan brought together some of the best video games that we have seen, like Shadow of the Colossus. That was Sony Japan. And when I say Shadow of the Colossus, I'm talking specifically about the remaster. I don't know how the original actually worked, if that was also Sony Japan. It might have been. But Bloodborne, that was a collaboration between Sony Japan and FromSoftware. I think even Wipeout was very much in the ballpark. So Sony Japan did tons and tons and tons of amazing games for PlayStation. They eventually got rid of them, which to me was like a massive, massive loss. I don't know why they would do that. But Sony Japan were also probably involved in Demon Souls back in the day, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was nobody had any faith in Demon Souls. This is the interesting part. Even people at FromSoftware, they had no faith in Demon Souls. This is why Miyazaki was able to just swoop in and be like, oh, nobody cares about this game? Can I have it?
Oh,
Can I work on it? Yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah, that's how that went down. So nobody cared about Demon Souls. Nobody had any faith because it was like, oh, we're making this Western-facing RPG. We didn't actually care about any of this. This project's going to suck. It was like a pretty much a project that nobody cared about. And Miyazaki goes in and he's like, well, you guys don't care. You don't mind if I make a couple of changes, right? And everybody was like, yeah, whatever. It's a dead game. Nobody cares about it. So he makes a ton of changes. Obviously makes a cult classic. Everybody knows about Demon Souls nowadays. Phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. And what happened was, even though the game was really, really good, nobody recognized the true potential of Demon Souls. And so what happened was the game came out in like 2007 in Japan, and it was never meant to come overseas. It was not supposed to come overseas. Yeah. And this is why FromSoftware felt slighted by Sony, because Sony was like, yeah, sure, we'll publish it in Japan, whatever, nobody cares. Yeah. And FromSoftware eventually had to seek out other partnerships. Atlas were the ones who brought it to the West initially, which I think was like 2008 or something like that. This was a long time ago, and I'm quoting it off of my top of my head. But I think it was like 2008. It made it over to the US, but not to Europe.
What?
So there wasn't even a European version of Demon Souls, which sucked. Like I imported it from Canada. Okay, I imported Demon Souls from Canada to be able to play it on PlayStation, because it was only on PlayStation. It was an exclusive. Yeah. You couldn't play it anywhere else. And so I was like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Why aren't they? Because when I started playing Demon Souls, it was instantly one of those moments that I just like, I played the whole thing. Like nonstop, beginning to end. It was every moment of free time that I have, I'm like addicted and, on point in this video game. The guy who got me into the game was actually kind of like, oh, wow, you finished the game? Yeah, I finished the game and I made a new character just to go and play with him. Like I was super addicted. Wow. And eventually, it was only in 2009 that the game was published by Bandai Namco in Europe. And so this is why FromSoftware ended up passing on Dark Souls exclusivity, because they're like, you guys didn't believe in our project. Like, what the fuck do you mean? And it took them quite a bit of effort to eventually collaborate again in Bloodborne. And the main reason why they ended up collaborating again in Bloodborne and why that's a PlayStation exclusive is because Miyazaki was like, I want to learn how to properly do video games on PS4, because PS4 had a different architecture from PS3, because PS3 was cell processor and PlayStation 4 was basically a small PC. Yeah. That's kind of like what we've had, right? But he wanted to kind of like learn the in and outs of the PlayStation architecture, so he partnered up with them, because then they would have the support of PlayStation in order to like, oh, how do we make this? How do we make this effect? How do we do this thing? PlayStation would like tell them how to properly code for PS4. And then after that, they never partnered up with them again, because they're like, yeah, we know how to do it now. Thanks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's fucking based, bro.
Yeah. So I think this is the same guy that basically said launching games on PC, owning games on PC is like printing money. Yes, it's a former Sony CEO. That in an interview,
you mean Shuei Yoshida? He might have said that. Yeah, he might have said that.
He said launching Sony games on PC is like printing money. It's like so easy to make your money. And I wish people could. So while you were talking about this, I decided to actually quickly look into the demographics for gaming, like who plays on what. And there's something super interesting about all of this. So just listen to this, right? I asked Grok 3 to give me the exact demographics. It first says that it's quite difficult because the demographics aren't super public, but you can piece things together using multiple sources. So it says PlayStation tends to lead in terms of active players globally. Historical data from 2017 showed consoles, predominantly PlayStation and Xbox, accounting for 73% of active players, with PC at 27% and PlayStation 4 having the most active users at that time. More recently, in 2022, game sales distributions indicated PlayStation at 41%, PC at 30%, and Xbox at 29%. By 2023, Microsoft reported 200 million monthly active Xbox users, while Sony PlayStation Network had around 1.6 million monthly active users in 2021, with estimates suggesting it could be closer to 120 million by now, given its consistent growth. PC gaming, however, boasts the largest overall player base, with estimates of 1.8 billion PC users globally in 2022, though this includes a broad range of casual and mobile adjacent players, not all of whom are on dedicated gaming PCs. So basically since 2017, and I think a lot of this has to do with COVID, PC exploded during COVID. Because remember, suddenly all of those people that tend to go to the office to work, but would come home to their PlayStation, now needed a PC at home because they were working from home. And now that you have your PC at home, you may as well play video games on your PC at home.
I'll tell you what, though.
Yeah.
The NVIDIA is making sure to try and tank that as much as they fucking can with their policy on their new GPUs. NVIDIA's like, fuck them PC gamers. Pay me a king's fucking ransom for these GPUs. Jesus Christ. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be switching back to PlayStation with the PS5 Pro because of the fact that GPUs are so fucking expensive right now. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. But I do find I think Sony has made a number of... We've spoken about Sony before. This is not the first episode where Sony has come up. Sony has made a number of missteps over the last, I would say, maybe 3 to 5 years. There's been a number of severe missteps from forcing these exclusives that technically do not need to be exclusives. I get first-party exclusives. It's a studio that is owned by Sony. They want to have the game release on their platform first. Sure, it's not great, but it's fine. But then you have companies like Rockstar, for example, that insists on doing this whole PlayStation first and only then the game comes to PC much, much later. These things, in my opinion...
It's not just PlayStation, it's console.
Yeah. But consoles in general... Well, to be fair, Xbox doesn't have that many console exclusives because almost all Xbox games come to PC, right?
I was talking about Rockstar specifically. Because you were bringing up Rockstar, and Rockstar does console first, not PlayStation.
I was just using Rockstar as sort of like an example, but you have plenty of games that exclusively launch on the PC, on the Sony PlayStation, and only then come to PC, which is super
better
annoying.
Example for that would be Square Enix.
Yeah, Square Enix is a great example of that, actually. Yeah, I completely forgot about Square Enix. But fundamentally, I
completely forgot about Square Enix.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, man. They haven't made that many mistakes yet. So, I'm sure they'll be in the news soon again for some BS. But I think, and then you have, of course, the whole PSA network thing I get PS network account thing. Yeah, where you're trying to force PC gamers to make accounts on the PlayStation network. It's like, in what universe do you think PC gamers are going to want to do that?
Yeah.
It's like Sony keeps shooting themselves in the foot when in reality, they don't need to do that.
They not only don't need to shoot themselves in the foot, they have pretty much licenses for printing money left, right, and center. Like, I know that when it comes to Bloodborne's probably more touchy, and I've recently saw a theory on Bloodborne, which I think is probably correct, and that is the fact that Bloodborne is very close to Miyazaki, so I'm pretty sure that PlayStation probably reached out to Miyazaki, hey, we need to do a sequel or a remaster or something, and Miyazaki's probably just like, I'm too busy making new things.
Yeah, most likely.
It's just like, no, I'm doing new things.
Aren't you worried?
And Sony probably can't do it themselves because they don't want to piss people off.
Yeah, but aren't you worried, though, that now that Sony is basically locked to buy FromSoftware, aren't you worried that Sony, now that they have full access to the IP, because technically they own FromSoftware, that they'll just force a Bloodborne remake? Because they can, technically now, it is their studio.
I mean, good luck with that. Good, because like I said, people will not accept, there's already a lot of people that are upset over the remaster of Demon's Souls, because usually I focus a lot on gameplay, and from a gameplay standpoint, they absolutely delivered with the remake, because it plays exactly like the previous game, to the point where even though they changed the animations, they studied the frame timings on the attacks, so that it's like, even though this animation is different, in combat it's going to feel exactly the same because the duration of the attack is exactly the same. So gameplay wise was amazing, but from an artistic standpoint, it had a lot of problems that people pointed out over the years, which I agree with. Even though at the time I didn't notice it because, I just didn't notice it.
Yeah.
But if they try to pull the same thing with Bloodborne, it's going to be way, way worse.
Yeah.
And people are going to be very upset if they try to pull a Bloodborne without Miyazaki's blessing, I think.
Maybe. I mean, it's always so annoying to me. All of these games get remakes, but then the games that should get remakes, never get remakes. Right?
Like you want to know one of the biggest tragedies is actually Soul Sacrifice, which most people won't even know what that game is.
I don't know what that
is. It's one of the games that never made it out of the PlayStation Vita. It is such an amazing game that it is almost, well, it's not worth it anymore because you can't buy games on the Vita store because that's closed down.
Mm-hmm.
But while the Vita store was still open, it was worth it for you to buy that little thing that they had, which was a PlayStation Vita TV, because for a while it was selling for like $50. It was worth it for you to buy that tiny console, to plug it to your TV, just to then play Soul Sacrifice. You'd end up paying like, I don't know, $100 or something to play Soul Sacrifice. It was worth it.
Yeah, but
it was worth it.
It's not the only one, right? You have things like Siphon Filter.
And it's a PlayStation IP. That's the worst part. They own the IP and they do nothing with it. Yeah, but it's very frustrating.
I will use Siphon Filter as another example, which I also think is a PlayStation game. I don't know if it ever came to Xbox. Siphon Filter, also absolute phenomenal game. Just never heard of it ever again. You have, this is more in my alley, not so much, I think you don't even care about games like this, but there's a game called Beast and Bumpkins that could so easily be a city builder these days, because it had a phenomenal system. Even back in the day, you would have an actual aging system. Like, peasants would need houses and need to make babies. That's the only way you could get new people, was with actual babies being born and then sending them to school and teaching them so that they can be better workers. Beast and Bumpkins. It was super fun. These are super old games. Diablo 1 never receives a remake. What the hell are we playing at? Warcraft 1 and 2. Where's those remakes? Diablo
2 wasn't supposed to receive a remake, which was surprising that they were able to pull it off.
Yeah. You know, there's so many games. And then, of course, the biggest one of them all, Dragon Age Origins. This is the game that spanned the IP. It's beloved by everyone, and yet no remake on the cards. They've not... EA, this company that is obsessed with money, just letting this little gold mine just deteriorate. It's like cobwebs all over it. The spiders have moved in and nested already. You're like, bro, just dust that shit off. Optimize it for the modern gaming rigs. And you don't even have to change the graphics. Just optimize it. Release a patch that optimizes it for modern day gaming rigs, and we're good. Like, that's it. That's all you need to do. But no.
We don't like money, Accolonn. Even though they do the most greedy, disgusting decisions, they actually don't like money.
It's insane to me, dude, how many games should be remakes and there aren't. And then you get games like The Last of Us 1 and 2 getting remakes, and it's like, bro, those games aren't even old. Like Horizon Dawn or some shit. The first one. And now the second one is also apparently slated to get some kind of remake or some shit.
Oh my god, it's so dumb. Those games already look so good. They don't need remakes.
If you look at the screenshots of the remake side by side, you're going, it's literally that meme of the office worker sitting there going, these two pictures look the same.
I had a discussion with people about this when they first revealed the remake stuff, because of the fact that there were some cutscenes in the original that were pre-rendered cutscenes, and then in the remake, I think they made them in-engine or something, but it looked worse. And I was like, the way that you change the way this character looks, his expressions aren't as visible, and the emotion that's supposed to be conveyed in the scene is destroyed.
Yeah.
Because I remember specifically seeing like a picture of Aloy's father, adoptive father, whatever the fuck you want to call him. And I was like, I remember this scene. This is a very emotional scene. And because of the way that you did the remake with the optimization for the better visuals and higher definition, all of that, a lot of the character expression is lost.
Yeah.
Like, this is terrible. This should be illegal. What you're doing here is so weird.
No,
I don't know why.
I absolutely agree with you. I think a lot of games are getting remakes these days that don't deserve to be remakes. They're not that old. Like Last of Us 1, it's like when you think about remakes, when they remade Kingdom Come or Kingdom Reckoning, what was it called again? Kingdoms of Amalur, Reckoning.
Kingdoms of Amalur, yeah.
Yeah, Reckoning was the remake. When they remade that, it kind of made sense. That's a super old game.
Yeah.
It really looked like ass in modern day. So the remake made a lot of sense. If they were to announce Dragon Age Origins remake, it makes sense. That's a super old game, but it is a cult classic. I get that for a lot of people, The Last of Us 1 is a cult classic, but it's not that old. It's not yet reached the point where you can say it needs a remake.
The remaster that they did for PS4 was pretty much more than enough to keep that game going for years. You didn't need to make like 50 different remasters of Last of Us 1 because it already looked phenomenal on PlayStation 3.
Yeah, but luckily...
Hell, you play it on PlayStation 3 today, it still looks awesome.
But luckily, no one is as bad as Bethesda with remakes. Because Skyrim keeps getting... It's not even a remake, it's just a re-release of the same shit game.
It's just we slightly changed the title, so we made a new one.
It's like it has all the same bugs. Like the bugs are never fixed. It's the mods just roll over to the next version so that you can actually play the game. And you're like, bro,
so bad.
Like, how many times is this? I think it's probably been remade 10, 11, 12 times at this point. Just keep releasing a new Game of the Year edition. And you're good to go, and people keep buying this shit, even though it never fixes anything. But anyways, from Sony, we now move on to, well, our favorite topic. If this show is already called Mythic Banter, but if this show wasn't called Mythic Banter, it would be called Celebrating the Downfall of Ubisoft podcast. That's
it
what
would be. It would be called the Ubisoft. The Ubisoft, what do they call it? The tracker, the Ubisoft tracker.
Yeah,
we
Ubisoft
just keep tracking
tracker.
Ubisoft.
Me and Rurikhan, I don't think you guys get how much we love bad news about Ubisoft.
Oh man,
it's like a warm hug when I see bad news with Ubisoft. So Ubisoft's quarter 3 financial results was released, and we finally had the opportunity to sit down and actually look at those results.
I haven't seen any of this, so I'm listening to it for the first time.
It's
bad. Go ahead.
It's really bad. So Ubisoft's dates are still stuck at 1.4 billion euro. This immediately made a lot of investors very, very sort of cautious because they didn't pay any of their dates. None of their dates got paid. Not even a little bit. Then, in every single trackable metric, from amount of players playing Rainbow Six Siege, to the amount of active monthly users that Ubisoft has, to the amount of active monthly subscribers and payers that Ubisoft have, they've all dropped by 30% or more.
I love the way that you said, in every trackable metric, things are bad.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
In every trackable metric, Ubisoft has lost more than 30% of its sort of market share. Ubisoft has now lost over 98% of its total value. Like the studio is wrecked.
Bro, my heart goes out to Yves Guillemot, man. The poor Frenchman, dude.
Yeah, Mr. Guillemot is having a hard time at the moment.
He's going to be the homeless one soon. The homeless guy doesn't even have the camera. He's just a homeless dude. That's fucked
But there's something even more worrying about Ubisoft, and that is, I can't remember the acronym, but it's a BITNA or some shit like that. It's a specific financial acronym used to track your earnings after, it's your earnings before the deductions of everything. So before the deductions of taxes and all of the things that you have to pay. What is your actual earnings as compared to paying back your debt? So the interest on your debt, how much are you earning and how much can you pay back in debt? Ubisoft's earnings,
negative?
It sits at 21.9%. This means that when Ubisoft gets all of its money, before it even pays anything, it doesn't have enough to pay the interest on its debts. And after it pays everything, it really doesn't have enough to pay off its debts.
Oh,
so
man.
Ubisoft
is like,
yeah.
I can hear Mark Darrah's voice right now going like, you guys shouldn't be happy about this.
I am ecstatic about this.
I will always be happy about the blatant greed that these people have done.
Mm-hmm.
They get what they fucking deserve. I've said it a million times. Every single time they come out with their next game that's like, oh, this one has 5 days of early access and a deluxe edition and a gold edition and a platinum edition.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these editions have a little bit of content that we cut out from the main game to make it worth your while to buy one of these other editions. Get fucked times 1 million. I don't give a fuck.
But I think that a bit now, whatever number, I'm not a financial guy. So I don't know a lot about finances. I'm sort of picking it up as I cover stuff and I'll read about it. But I think what the 21% means is that that's the shortfall. So once they get all their money, they fall short of meeting all of their debt obligations by about 21% right? So Ubisoft is struggling. Ubisoft then decided during their earnings call to respin Star Wars Outlaws. So instead of saying that Star Wars Outlaws didn't meet demand, they said that they are now convinced that Star Wars Outlaws is going to be a slow seller. So it will eventually make a lot of money, just not right now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to put this into perspective for you, when we quickly do Star Wars Outlaws,
slow seller.
Yeah, Star Wars Outlaws Steam charts.
It's real slow. It's going about 1 mile a day. It's real slow.
So here's the not even 1 mile a day. That would be lightning speed that would be like taking a turtle and putting him on a bicycle, right? That would be too fast. So here is the slow seller from Ubisoft. It's 24-hour peak. Rurikhan, are you ready for this? This is a mind-bending number.
Not.
300.
I'm not ready.
And 11. That's the slow seller for Ubisoft. Star Wars
that number not big. It's not very big.
No, that is not a big number. And if you could believe it, it's down from yesterday.
Oh no.
So it's actually going down. It doesn't have much to go down with. So here's
the worst part. You want to know the worst part about this?
Yeah.
I would have bought this game and I would have played this game if it wasn't for Ubisoft's business practices, because I love Star Wars that much. I would have done it. Absolutely. If it was like, let's say $70, that's it. Here's the whole game. So I would have probably bought it and I would have played it.
To put this into perspective for people,
I might have even liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might have even liked it.
I wouldn't go that far, because to put it into perspective for people, if we go back not even a month, we go back to the 26th of January, it had an all-time peak of 917, or an overall peak, 24-hour peak of 917. We're now down to 572 on the 16th of February, and now the peak is 311. So if this trajectory holds, we're down from the 1st of January. This is, in other words, not even 2 months yet. We're down from 2,300.
It is a single-player game.
Yeah, but remember,
it is what it is.
Remember, they're banking on this being a slow seller, right? So it didn't sell much at the top end. To put it into perspective for people, when it launched finally on all platforms and also on Steam, the game managed to get a grand total of 2,492 peak players.
Let's just put it like this. Games that have what they want to refer to as a long tail, which is what they want for this game, usually they need their initial graph to go like big. It needs to be big the first time. And then it can kind of like tail off. When your graphics like a little bloop, it's like that's not enough for it to have a long tail, usually.
And the truth is, you do get games that only blow up after its launch. So on launch, it doesn't really blow up. But those are usually games that are plagued by technical difficulties. And then they tend to blow up as soon as the patches come out and it fixes the technical. Cyberpunk 2077 is a great example of this. Its blow up came as soon as most of the technical difficulties were finally fixed. Now, the thing here to remember is that patch already came out. So the patch that fixed a lot of the technical issues was already released. It barely made. So that one released on about 30th of December, and it didn't even manage to break the previous peak of 2,492. It managed to get to 2,337.
Here's what Ubisoft means when they say, we think this is going to be a slow seller. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a slow seller up until you sell it for like 99 cents on the Steam store. Then people are going to pick it up, okay? When they can pick it up for cheaper than a pack of fries, that's when they're going to buy your fucking game.
I would actually say, I would go so far as to say, when this game finally goes on sale for like $10, $15, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
It's $15, that's shit. I'll buy that. I've played worse games for more, so it's fine, right? I bought Dragon Age 2 full price, so I'd be happy to pay $15 for That's
rough, but I did do the same thing. You know what the interesting thing is?
Yeah.
The main reason I got into Mass Effect is because I bought Dragon Age 2. Because it was some promotion that was going on in my country where you'd buy Dragon Age 2 and it would come with Mass Effect 2. And I remember that I bought that and it had Mass Effect 2. And then a friend of mine told me, you can't play Mass Effect 2 without playing Mass Effect 1. And I was like, why? And he was like, no, you got to play you don't understand. You got to play Mass Effect 1. And I was like, fine.
Yeah.
I begrudgingly played it, and then I was like, you were right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
it's actually
making me see that was a real friend right there. That's a real friend.
That is a real friend. I would say that's the kind of man you have
the
as
American
your
guy. That's the American guy that came to my wedding. So yeah,
nice.
Makes sense.
But I would say the thing is, Mass Effect is probably one of the few games where you really cannot skip any of them.
Yeah,
because the story, it's basically one.
You can skip Andromeda.
Andromeda doesn't form part of the trilogy, right?
The trilogy.
You can't skip any of the trilogy because it really is one game. This is why the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is so phenomenal.
Oh my god,
because it's
so good.
Yeah, it treated it as one game, and you can play it as one game. It's perfectly. It is one game. It's one story told. All of your decisions matter right up until the end. And then some people say your decisions don't matter.
Fucking
love that. It's such a good game, bro. It is such a good game. But all right, so Ubisoft's Star Wars Outlaws problems continue. They don't even necessarily think that Shadows will save it. They at the moment, they're kind of spinning it in a way that they think Star Wars Shadows will help stabilize the campaign.
Star Wars Shadows?
Not Star Wars. Assassin's Creed Shadows.
No, look, I get it. Their games look so much alike that it's all blends together into a fucking formless mass. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. But, I get it.
Yeah. They don't even... So they sell it to investors as obviously a positive, but they think that Assassin's Creed Shadows will at least stabilize
I can see Yves Guillemot being like, no, guys, trust me. We're gonna make so much money. Just stick with us. We're gonna make so much money. And then behind the scenes, he's going like, "Shit, this whole thing's going down in fucking flames, bro. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Yeah. Somebody save me."
So there's been some rumors that suggest that the whole Ubisoft keep pushing back the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows is to buy time for the discussions, because they're currently in discussions with Tencent for a potential buyout of the studio. And Ubisoft right now isn't in necessarily a favorable negotiating position. The second Assassin's Creed Shadows launch, they're really not in a favorable negotiating position. And so they're kind of hoping that the deal goes through before AC Shadow launches.
I think that we've already spoken about this. Even I think that Tencent just wants the IP. They're like, no, we don't want your fucking studio. We just want your properties. That's it. We'll buy your properties on the cheap. We'll pick you guys off from the bargain bin.
Yeah,
that's what, they're going up to the bargain bin. It's like, oh, look at how many pocket change do you have? Well, I have like 20 cents in a piece of lint. And it's just like, I'm gonna buy Ubisoft. Somebody actually donated on my stream the other day. I think they did the YouTube thing of like the $2 donation. They're like, here you go, Rurikhan, go buy Ubisoft. I was like, I don't want it.
Based.
I'll take your money. I'm still not buying Ubisoft.
Hey, I'd buy Ubisoft for $2. Think of what I could do with AC IP, with Far Cry IP. Dude, you can make phenomenal games if you could get Guillemot out
Remember,
of it.
you're also inheriting like all of the debt and all of this other bullshit. I don't want none of that. I don't want 19,000
Day
people.
one of acquiring Ubisoft, your 99% developers laid off at Ubisoft, bro. Like day one. On site. See,
this is why you can't buy Ubisoft.
Every single one of them would be fired. We'll start over.
10% are going to do that. Don't worry about it.
I think that's the problem that Ubisoft finds themselves in. Ubisoft is delaying the game, if the rumors are to be believed, in order to try and get Tencent to buy them before the game comes out, because their position of negotiation right now is kind of weak. If AC Shadow fails, their position just weakens more. And suddenly, because for those of you that don't know, the exact negotiation at the moment is that Guillemot wants Tencent to buy Ubisoft, but they want to remain the decision makers of Ubisoft. So they want Ubisoft to basically pay off their debts. They want Tencent to pay off their debts, but they continue to run the studio. Tencent doesn't like that idea. They're like, oh, why would we do this? So I think what you have here
like a terrible idea.
One side is hoping that they get bought out before the game launches. The other side is going, launch the game, bro. Launch the game.
Good luck.
Yeah. Because they know as soon as the game tanks, the directors are going to force a sale, and then Tencent can just walk in and literally buy buy Ubisoft for on the cheap, and then just close it, sell the IPs, or keep the IPs for themselves. That's sort of what I think Tencent is hoping for. Then we have here Nightrain and Bloodborne sequel stuff. Now, before we get into this, I want to know, what was Nightrain like? Because you actually played it.
Yeah. So Nightrain is very interesting. I liked it more than I expected to. Mm-hmm. But it is going to be something that is not going to please everybody that played Elden Ring. Like, I don't see this being a point of entry for newcomers to Elden Ring. Mm-hmm. It's more like people that enjoy Elden Ring multiplayer. This is a very interesting gameplay mode. Okay. So basically, you get into the thing. You choose from a preset made character. That preset character is going to have their stats already laid out. And when you level up, you don't really choose stats. It's just like, level me up. And it just gives you the appropriate stats for that character. And so each of these characters is going to have a role. So the 4 characters that we got to play was like this Birdman that acts kind of like a tank. Okay. So he's very tanky, and he can do like CC stuff and protect your allies with like a shield. Mm-hmm. Then you have a dude that's just about DPS, which is the Wilder. He has like this hand cannon thing that he can kind of like pull out. He like punches bosses, and it will stagger a boss with one hit, which is really, really powerful. So you get like a visceral attack off of just like, it's like One Punch Man. And then there is another one, which is the Recluse, which is kind of like a spellcaster. And then there is the Duchess, which is kind of like a rogue. So I didn't play the spellcaster or the rogue, so I can't say too much about those. But the 2 that I did play, because I was only able to make one of the network tests. There were like 5 or 6 of them. The first one crashed and burned. People weren't able to play at all if you were on PlayStation. Mm-hmm. Because PlayStation servers are,
very good.
We've seen that they can't handle the pressure. Mm-hmm. Strangely enough, everything was fine on the Xbox side of things. So there are a bunch of content creators that got Xbox codes, and they were all just like playing fine, no problems. People on PlayStation getting completely ripped to shreds, and there was no PC, which fucking sucked.
Yeah.
But usually FromSoftware does their network tests on consoles first. But, it is what it is. So the first test didn't work. Second test, I only got to play that one. So I figured I want to focus on 2 characters that I know I would like to play. So that's why I played Birdman and Wilder. And the way that it works is you get into the map. It looks like Limgrave. I think that there are more maps than just Limgrave, but it hasn't been like fully confirmed. But you get into the map. It's Limgrave. And it's all 3 of you. Each of you choose one of these archetypes that I've said. And you get in there and you have like this super speed run. There's no torrent. You just super speed run. And you're just going through, murdering everything super fast, getting runes, because there is a battle royale circle closing in at all times that is locking you off from certain areas of the map. So you want to level up as fast as possible. Whenever you kill bosses, they might drop, they give you like a choice of 3 things. So they drop like a soul in the ground. You click that and that gives you a choice. Okay, you can get like this passive effect, or this weapon, or this other passive effect. And you choose from that, what do you want for your character? And you kind of like build your character up. Then eventually when the circle closes in all the way, a big boss spawns. And that's the first boss that you fight, the first proper boss. There's many bosses that you fight along the way, but then that's the first proper boss. You defeat that boss, circle expands again, everything respawns. You go around again, killing stuff, getting more powerful. Circle starts encroaching in again, another boss spawns. Kill that, it's over, and then you go to a special location that lets you like buy stuff and level up for the last time and all of that, and then you open up a door and you face off against the final boss, and this whole thing takes around from 30 to 40 minutes. Actually, I think it's about 40-something minutes. Nice. Each round takes about,
it's a nice,
assuming
nice
that
time.
you progress through the whole thing. Yeah. And then there's the big final boss fight, which in this case it was like a Cerberus-looking dog that had like 3 heads, and then in the middle of the fight it splits up, and now there's 3 dogs. Okay. And you have to fight all of them, and then it collapses back in on itself. But the reason why it's so much fun is because it's basically Elden Ring, except super fast, and it gets you to try out things that you've never tried before. Because like you're doing a build in the main game, right? And so you're thinking, oh, I have to expend resources upgrading this weapon. I have to expend resources leveling up. I have to expend all of these resources figuring out what's the weapon art that I'm using and all of that. So it's prohibitively expensive for you to like, oh, now let me go do that again with a different character. So there's a limit to how much you experience in the game, right? And with this, you're constantly getting different weapons. And it's like, oh, I've never used this weapon before, but now it comes with this special property. Like, for instance, I picked up an axe, which was a magical axe. So it was infused for magic, which was not good for my character. But at the same time, it said, you heal whenever things die. So I was like, oh yeah, I like this. And the thing is, the passive effect of those weapons happens even if that's not the weapon that you have equipped. So you want to fill out all of your weapon slots to make sure that you get all of the passive effects, and that will make like a build for you coupled together with like the different passive effects that you get. But the other thing is also when somebody dies, you attack them and they get back up. So you heal them by smacking at them, and then they get back up. Okay. So there are really cool power plays that you can kind of do. So when I played Birdman, the ultimate of Birdman, he jumps into the air and then he crashes back down, big AoE, and at the same time, if you keep the button pressed, it will shield all of your allies, and they can just go ham, not have to worry about damage at all. So usually what I would do in certain situations, I wait until somebody carts, or somebody falls down, and I'm like, okay, he's down, ultimate, boom, he's back up, he's shielded, he's dealing damage, and it feels good to do that synergy. Or sometimes when I was playing Wilder, 2 people would already be fighting a boss. I come in out of nowhere, Falco, punch, boss goes down. It just feels really good. Yeah. The synergy between characters and the co-op action. I thought it was a ton of fun. Okay. I had a blast playing it.
Yeah, and the time, from everything you've just said, it feels like that kind of like, in the beginning, you're obviously going to no-life it, but then it's almost going to become one of those filler games where you have to go away in an hour to friends or whatever. You only have an hour, jump into a match, do the match, and you know, you're done before you have to leave.
I don't think it's going to have the staying power of an Elden Ring, but it's not intended to. It's a $40 title.
Yeah.
Is it worth $40? Depends on the amount of content that is going to be there at launch, which I've heard is going to be like 8 different bosses that you have, the final bosses, and then there's going to be, because it's not always the same scenario. So like stuff that spawns on the map changes, and I think even the map architecture can change a little bit and all of that. So there's some procedural elements there.
Yeah.
So I think that will keep it fresh, but yeah, I don't see it something that has as much staying power as an Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring is obviously a classic. Everybody loves Elden Ring, and people always go back to it. This is going to be more, you're going to go probably really ham for a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months, and then it all depends if they want to put more content into it for people to come back. But it's going to be a full experience on release.
Never underestimate. I mean, you have games like Helldivers that came out of nowhere and just blew up, so it is possible that this game blows up and people just go ham and it becomes a thing like Helldivers. So I do think I do think there's some potential to it. From all of the things that I've seen and that I've watched, it looks like a game that I'm definitely going to be playing. You also mentioned something about Bloodborne sequel stuff. What's happening there?
Just one more thing with the Elden Ring Nightrain. It's going to feel very strange your first couple of drops, because you're going to have no clue what the fuck is going on. You're going to not understand everything that is happening. And you're like, why am I going so fast? Why is everything happening? So what is going on? Which direction am I going? And people are just like running haphazardly. It will take some acclimation. Like the first run that I did, I was like, I have no idea what the fuck is going on here. And I think that's going to be a lot of people's first experience, but I do think that it is going to be worth it. But the Bloodborne stuff was that apparently there was a survey about Nightrain for feedback. And in that survey, they asked people, hey, would you like to see a Bloodborne sequel? But they also asked for other FromSoftware games, but obviously Bloodborne's the one that kind of like stands out, because that's the one that seems like they're never getting around to it. But yeah, it was mentioned in the feedback form. It's basically that's it. That's the news.
I think it's going to be interesting, especially with Miyazaki now. Sort of, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, where Miyazaki is trying to get other people in the company to also kind of be game directors,
which is the case
with Nightrain,
which is the case for this project. Yeah.
So it is possible that Miyazaki maybe takes some of his closest confidants, maybe people who worked on the original Bloodborne, and gets them to do a Bloodborne sequel, with him obviously very closely monitoring and making sure that they're not screwing it up. Because I do think if you're in the position like if you're someone like Miyazaki, you're very similar to Hideo Kojima, right? Where you have so many ideas, and remember, you have limited time to realize all of these ideas, all of the things that you really want to do. And you can see with how even just Dark Souls, how it sort of evolves from 1 to 2 to 3. And then you see Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is a complete new evolution on the Dark Souls formula. And then you have, Ghost of, is it Ghost of Tsushima or Sekiro?
No.
Sekiro. Yeah, Sekiro is the one with the samurai ninja type thing. You have that, which is yet another sort of evolution. You can almost look at it as if Dark Souls is the baseline, these are different possible evolutions that it could have followed, right? So Elden Ring is one possible way a Dark Souls game could have evolved. Sekiro is another possible way that a Dark Souls game would evolve. And I think Miyazaki is probably more interested in that sort of thing, right? Doing things that push the Dark Souls genre forward, rather than necessarily just being bogged down with sequels.
I don't think that Miyazaki even sees it that way. He sees Sekiro, and a lot of people in the community see Sekiro as something completely different, which they don't even include in like the Soulsborne. And Miyazaki sees every title as like individually. He's always said, I don't want to be doing Dark Souls forever. We want to do new things, and that's where he excels. But yeah, I don't think that he wants to be doing sequels. But at the same time, I think that at least a remaster, I think he might do that, because you can really only play Bloodborne on PS4, and we're currently on PS5, and it is playable on PS5, but it's only 30 FPS. So
yeah.
Fun.
I think, fundamentally, it's going to be interesting to see what Miyazaki and the guys from FromSoftware have planned. The sad thing is they're now being acquired by Sony. Let's hope that Sony doesn't force all sorts of bad habits and suddenly you get cash shops in Elden Ring and
Oh no, I don't see them doing that. I see them maybe trying to push for exclusivity, but I'm hoping that Miyazaki won't cave to that.
Once they're owned, there's very little you can do. They'll get their way because it's their games. But all right, so on to the next story, and I think I think I'm gonna cut the Dragon Age the Veilguard stuff because I don't know if
it's been talked to death anyway. Yeah. So
there is new news, but it's not confirmed. It's just a bunch of rumors at this point. So we'll probably revisit it if there's a lot more confirmations around this stuff. But for now, let's just ignore it. And the Jeff Kaplan stuff. Did you want to talk about the Jeff Kaplan stuff, or do you?
Yes.
Do you? Okay.
Yes.
So we do have new confirmation from Jeff Kaplan. This is not really from him. It's from Jason Schreier's book. That's Play Nice. It's the whole expose of Blizzard and everything that happened within Blizzard. And there's chapters in there about Jeff Kaplan. Now, this is a pretty old book. The book came out, I think, 5-6 months ago or some shit like that. So it's not like the book is brand new. But the information within the book has now started to make the rounds as the news becomes relevant, right? As people start to look around the gaming industry and start to realize similar patterns that are occurring. And in one of the chapters, Jason Schreier talks about why Jeff Kaplan ultimately left the Overwatch team and also Blizzard. And this is, I found it super, super interesting. There's a bunch of different reasons, and most of those reasons are sort of more hearsay stuff. It's not really stuff that he knows for a fact. But in one of these, Jeff Kaplan had severe disagreements with Blizzard presidents and the Blizzard leadership over the team size of Overwatch. Jeff Kaplan believed firmly that team sizes have to be small, and that if you want to expand on a team size, it has to be slow. Because the team of Overwatch had a specific culture. Everyone knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were designing towards because everyone had the same idea. And Jeff Kaplan didn't want to include just 100 new developers because it would take too long for him to get those 100 developers to actually form part of that core team and understand the vision that they're working towards. So he didn't want this. Blizzard developers or Blizzard senior leadership, they wanted more developers because they wanted Overwatch to do more things more faster so that they could make more money. And ultimately, this disagreement is what led to Jeff Kaplan saying, "Peace, boys, I'm out of here." And also, subsequently, Overwatch saying, "Peace, boys, I'm almost out of here."
So the reason why I want to talk about this is because I feel that this is one of the biggest problems in the industry is that you have these teams that balloon to completely unsustainable sizes, and then you get constant bureaucracy happening. And sure, sometimes you can get a really beautiful video game out of it with gorgeous textures and all of these things, but a lot of times, due to the team sizes, they end up being too slow to be able to adapt. This is why we've constantly stated that AA is kind of taking over because they are much more agile with their development strategies and all of that. And it is definitely something that Overwatch ended up suffering from because they did have a team, they did have a culture, and they did have a really cool product. Because nowadays everybody shits on Overwatch and it makes sense. But back when Overwatch came out, it was just genuinely a really good game.
Yeah.
Like, I think we can all agree to that. In 2016 or whatever it was when it came out, it was just genuinely a really good game. And Jeff Kaplan, I got to interview him at some point. I probably mentioned this already. I got to interview him at some point, and he's just like a genuinely super nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up, no bullshit. He was just like super nice, super cordial, kept talking with me after the interview, like didn't like rush me off or anything. We were talking about the game and stuff and whatnot. And it was just like super chill. And it was told multiple times by sources back when, Overwatch was going down the drain, right before he left, that people were saying that Jeff Kaplan was trying to shield his team from all the bureaucracy that was coming down the pike from the rest of Blizzard. And in the end, he obviously failed because he ended up not being able to shield his team. And he's like, look, guys, I can't stop it. It's happening. It is what it is. Yeah. And he just moved on, which I think he did the right thing, because if you can't change it, then get your name out of there, because it's whatever. But they fucked it up, and they're still fucking it up with Overwatch. But
Overwatch is down, and I think it's not just Overwatch. I think this is something that has happened throughout the whole of the Western gaming space. Is just teams keep growing and keep expanding at a rate that really, in my opinion,
is not sustainable.
It's firstly not sustainable, but even more importantly than that, culture and company culture is super important. This is why Miyazaki is only now slowly starting to allow other people to also run games in FromSoftware, because you want to make sure that you establish that company culture, so that every game developer that starts to run a team and make a new game makes it on the first principles of the studio, because they're all part of that studio and they understand what the first principles of that studio will be. The issue in most modern day games, and this is why you can end up with something like Dragon Age: The Veilguard coming from a studio like BioWare, the first principles, the culture that led to Dragon Age Origins and even Dragon Age Inquisition to a large degree, those people are gone. That culture is gone. The ideas, the quality, the way that they wrote, the way that they made games, it's all gone. So even though, and this is why someone said it, I can't remember which developer said it, but studios don't make video games. People make video games.
Yep.
Just because Ubisoft once upon a time made Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3 doesn't mean that same Ubisoft still makes Assassin's Creed games. Those developers are no longer there. The ones that made that Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3, they're no longer working at Ubisoft. So the Assassin's Creed you're getting today isn't the Assassin's Creeds of yesteryear, because the developers that made those are gone. This is true pretty much throughout the whole of the AAA space. And if I look just at the amount of developers I've spoken to that work in AA now, almost all of them come from AAA, and almost all of them say the same thing. I'll never go back.
Yeah.
I'll never go back.
Because it's so much pressure. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's not just so much pressure. It's the fact that there really is no company culture in AAA, because studios are way too large. And also the revolution...
Some still have it, but it is rare.
It depends on when we say AAA, we're obviously referring to specific Western studios, right? And we're referring to the legacy AAA studios. So I'm not really referring to the FromSoftwares or the Capcoms because what Japan does, and what they sometimes do very well, is even though, yes, you have a Square Enix, for example, it's not Square Enix that's making Final Fantasy XIV. It's a very specific team in Square Enix that makes... So the studios are large, but the teams tend to be more focused, right? So Capcom, the guys that's making Monster Hunter, it's not Capcom making Monster Hunter. There's a very specific team.
It's the Monster Hunter team.
Yeah. And that team is the ones that's making Monster Hunter games. So Sony, or at least Japan, appears to have figured out that you can have very large conglomerates making video games, but the teams need to be more focused, which is not something you see in EA. I mean, EA famously, when developers work on a game and that game ships, they'll just take those developers and throw them on other projects to keep them busy there until they need to come back to this project, because this project now needs them. Remember, that destroys culture, because that person's not getting used to how another studio is doing things or another team is doing things. Now they have to come back to this team where they do things differently. So you are sort of destroying that sort of tight-knit notion. It's one of the reasons why Larian Studios is so successful. That team knows what they're making, and they know why they're making it. And everyone is making decisions because they know how everyone else would make those decisions. It's super important, and it's something that's really been lost. Speaking of lost, another studio that has gone from good to bad, or good to worse, or depending on how you want to view it.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, can we, Rurikhan, do you think we can finally admit that Avowed is an abject failure?
I don't know. I didn't get to play it because they didn't include dwarfs. Because I was like, I want to play this game. I wanted to play Avowed, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to like it. But if at least I can play a dwarf, I can have some fun. They didn't include dwarves. And I was like, well, that's too much of a risk now,
because there are dwarfs in the game.
Yeah, there are dwarves, but you can't play as a dwarf.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, why would you do that? But the thing is, the more I see gameplay for this game, I kind of do want to play it. Like, I think it would be fun to play the game, but I just don't have time to do it right now. If they had put in a dwarf, I would put in some more effort, but that's pretty much where I land. It looks fun, but the numbers aren't numbering, if that's, because I know that's what you're going to bring up.
Well, not just that. So I've done a lot of research. I've watched streams on this game because I don't want to play the game. Unlike you, I
actually do. I think it looks fun.
See, the thing for me is, it's again one of those games where the art direction doesn't match the game that you're trying to make. It's the same thing with Dragon Age: The Veilguard. You're trying to make a specific game, but your art direction feels like you're trying to make League of Legends 2. It's like, why do you choose an art direction that is antithetical to the game you're making? And by that,
I'm not against that art direction. I think it looks good.
No, my issue is the story is meant to be, a dark dangerous, eerie sort of story. The graphics or the art direction, not the graphics. The graphics are great. It actually looks beautiful, but it doesn't look like it fits what you're trying to sell, right? This is one of the things I brought this up in my original sort of coverage of Avowed. When you look at Elden Ring, the graphics of Elden Ring, the art direction fits the story that they're telling. In every single zone, every single area of every single zone, you can tell the world itself tells the story alongside you. Right? There's no confusion with what is the direction that we want to go with here. Whereas Avowed feels like a game that's a bit confused as to what they want to do. They want this living land, sort of almost fantasy, high fantasy type of story, but then that's not really the story that you're telling. The story is also not intricately woven in any way, shape, or form. Just the first few hours of the story that I watched is really bland and boring. Like you find out very, very early on actually what the main story is, and as soon as I found out, I was like, "What? Why that? That's so generically bullshit." Like, you can literally pick up any book in a library and it'll be that story from like some budget writer somewhere that decided to write a book. It's really not a fun story. It's really not. There's nothing fun about the game, at least from a narrative perspective. And as you know me, I'm not really a gameplay guy. I'm a story guy. Like, I can take shit gameplay. I need story.
That's the thing. That's why I find it appealing from what I've seen, because you have like all of these combos, and people say that the combat's actually pretty fun. So I'm looking at the gameplay and I'm like, oh, that looks really fun. I'd like to play that. I like to do those crazy combos, and there seems to be a lot of freedom in terms of you exploring and finding like hidden nooks and crannies. I'm into that type of stuff. So that seems like it would be.
I agree. As I looked at the combat, I was like, oh, this looks really cool. As I look at the exploration, it looks really cool. Although it's not an open world game. It's just like an open zone game, really.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not bad. It just misses every single element of what an RPG in the modern era should have had. Now, there's a lot of people that are defending the game by saying they never said that it's Skyrim, but they miss the point that people are making. When people compare this game to Skyrim, they're not saying that Avowed compared themselves to Skyrim. The people are comparing Avowed to Skyrim and saying, how can you have Skyrim more than a decade ago doing everything better? Like that.
I mean, it's also a much bigger studio than what are they called?
Obsidian. Well, yes, but at the time, Bethesda wasn't that large yet. And also, should be remembered, Obsidian does have Microsoft money now, right? So they're not that small anymore. And they managed to bring out a game that is very unoptimized on PC. Like, a lot of people are crashing and can't get into the game or can't continue playing. It's so much so that the director of the game herself said, yes, people need to expect jank, but that's just the price you pay when you try to do something new. So basically said the game wasn't going to be optimized at all because we're trying new things. Don't know what the new things is that they're trying because I haven't seen any of that. Just looks like a box standard, bargain bin game. But into the numbers. So the game came out. Yeah.
I'm very curious. What is the engine of this game?
Ooh, I have not checked. Hold up. Let me see for you.
Oh. It's Unreal Engine 5. Who could have seen it coming? Who could have predicted that this game was going to be a completely unoptimized trash? Who could have seen that one coming? Unreal Engine 5?
Yeah.
But people keep telling me it's so good.
So I had the opportunity to speak to a developer that is currently developing on Unreal 5. Their studio is making their games on Unreal 5. And I asked, why is Unreal so bad? And they said it's not bad. It's just very, very, very complicated, especially when it gets to optimization. If you don't have developers that know what they're doing, the game will never be optimized. And especially, and here is why they say most games fail, Unreal isn't built for massive open world. It can't do open world. It's not built for that. Because Unreal, at its core, is built to be Fortnite, right? It's the engine for Fortnite. So the engine is optimized to be no more than 100 people in a set pre-rendered zone. That's it. So the second you start introducing moving NPCs or wildlife moving around or any sort of open world,
they solved that problem in Avowed because the NPCs don't move.
Yeah, and when they do move, you see the problems with the engine, right? But apparently it's not as if you can't overcome it. It's that you need engine specialists. So you need people who are specialists in Unreal 5 that can then come in and basically rewrite the engine to do what you need it to do. So according to this developer, at least, it's 100% skill. It's a skill issue. That's why games aren't optimized. Because most developers run their game through Unreal 5 as if it's Unreal 4. And Unreal 4 took years before it was optimized to just basically run games. I don't know if people remember, but Unreal 4 used to be really bad at optimization. And it was confusing because almost every MMO developer decided to make games in Unreal 4, and then it would suck. But, here we are. So the numbers for Avowed looks as follows. The game launches into early access on the 14th of February. It manages to spike to a grand total of 9,974 players.
Now, let's be fair. It's also a Game Pass game.
It is a Game Pass game, but if we look at the numbers that we just had on Grok here, that showed us that in terms of PC gamers overall, you have about 1.8 billion PC gamers, and Game Pass only equates for about 30 to 35 million of those PC gamers. There's more on Steam than what there are on, and we do have other games that we can point to that also simultaneously launch Game Pass and Steam, like Stalker 2, for example. Stalker 2 smashed it, and it was a day one release on Game Pass.
What was the spike on that one?
For Stalker 2?
Yeah.
I'm checking for you now. Steam charts. Heart of Chernobyl Steam charts for Stalker 2. It peaked at 121,000.
So that's times 10.
Yeah. So clearly Game Pass didn't kill Stalker 2, right?
And by the way, Stalker 2 was also janky as hell on PC from what I hear, I don't know. I didn't really play it, but I hear it was very, very jank.
Oh, yeah. So it peaks at 9,900 on the first night. Then it goes up to 12,800 on the second night. And people are going, ooh, here we go. It's kicking off. The next night, 13,189. People are going, well, it's not picking up as quickly as we thought, but maybe it just needs a little bit more runway. The next night, 9,985 is the peak. So it hit a bump. It'll be fine. Watch what happens. And everything I'm saying now was said to me when I said that this game is an abject failure. Everyone was saying, dude, it's only early access. It's too early. Wait until it launches. You'll see the numbers will just shoot right up there. So then we have the release on the 18th of February, and it did shoot up, boys. It shot up to 17,143 players. Then, the next night, it broke the record, 17,490 players. And then the night after that, it peaks at 15,454 players. That's where we are now.
Yeah, it's it's a bit rough. You would expect to see more, particularly from an Obsidian RPG.
Yeah.
I think a big reason is probably going to be the whole drama with the creative director, which the point that I'm making here is you can agree with what the guy said, you can disagree with what the guy said. Mm-hmm. That's up to each person's individual politics and all of that.
Yeah.
Me personally, I just think that, you know, the fact that you are the creative director of a game and your big social media statement is, oh, I'm going to change things in my game to shove it up to Elon Musk's face.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a good, how about you change things in the game to make it so that people like the game? That would be the thing to do. You are literally the creative director, which doesn't surprise me that they kind of like removed them from the spotlight and they put the other lady in the spotlight, the one that talked about the jank and whatnot. Doesn't surprise me that they kind of like, they tried saving face, but
because he hasn't tweeted a thing in the last 2 months. Even now that the game is out, he doesn't tweet shit.
They probably muzzled his ass and said like, you shut the hell up. Look at what you did. It's like, you remember, I even told you in one of our podcast episodes, I'm like, you have like John from animation, and John's sitting over there like super happy animating this amazing shield slam. And John's like, oh man, look at this amazing animation that I did. It's so cool. And then John logs into Twitter and he sees that exchange and just goes like, fuck.
I did all of this work.
My resume. I gotta go fill out my resume now.
Yeah.
Thanks, creative director guy. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for that.
I think Matt Hansen is a big part of why I blame this game for failing, because he is the art director for the game. The art direction for the game, in my opinion, isn't where it needs to be. Now, people need to
like the art.
Please understand.
Personally, I like it.
When I say art direction, I'm not talking about the graphics. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the
I know what you're saying.
I want them to know, because people hear art direction and they just think, oh, you say the graphics are bad, but it looks good. No, it's
different things.
Yeah. So when you talk about graphics, World of Warcraft has amazing graphics for its art direction. Its art direction determines its graphics. Therefore, I can say it has beautiful graphics because it fits the art direction. If World of Warcraft looked like Elden Ring, it wouldn't fit the art direction, and therefore it would be weird, right? But it doesn't. If Elden Ring looked like World of Warcraft, that wouldn't fit the game's art direction, and it would look weird. So fundamentally, it is important. This game, in my opinion, the art direction doesn't work. But then again, I know the story, so I kind of know what the story. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, so I won't go too deep into it. But the story they chose to tell, to me at least, doesn't fit the art direction. Maybe you find a different approach. Maybe you enjoy it differently. I personally don't think I'll play this game. because
I might end up picking it up later, but right now I'm like full steam ahead. Give me wilds, or give me death.
Yeah. But all right, so that's the story of Avowed and Avowed's failure. Let's turn our attention then, finally, to Valve. We have we're over 3 hours now. Dude, if we don't, we're over 3 hours now. Luckily, there were a number of breaks. My fault. Holy crap! I'm not the one who had to break the whole time. But all right, so
yeah.
Dude, the funniest thing to me about this whole Valve thing is, firstly, I don't think gamers understand how often Valve is under attack by studios that I'm not talking about personal attacks or direct attacks. I'm talking about studios trying to replace Steam. And what's funny is Gabe Newell keeps beating these studios by doing nothing. He doesn't do anything. He just makes Steam.
It is like, yep, don't care. You guys do your thing. Have fun. Good luck.
So a VP from Amazon, a former VP from Amazon came out, vice president, came out and said, he basically detailed the entire history of Amazon Prime Prime Gaming from Amazon trying to kill Steam. They started this more than a decade ago, trying to kill Steam by acquiring online websites. So they literally went out and bought an online store, tried to scale that store up to become a Steam competitor. That failed completely. Then they tried to, I'm trying to remember all of it now off the top of my head. They tried a bunch of other things. Then they also tried the whole sort of Stadia-esque approach. So according to this guy, by the way, Stadia from Google was also meant to kill Steam. That's the whole point of Stadia, was that it's going to be the next store.
I was memeing on Stadia the moment they announced that thing. Why would you? Oh my God, bro.
And Amazon tried the same thing. They thought cloud gaming, that's the thing that's going to give us the edge over. Because
I do remember Amazon doing some cloud ventures into gaming. I remember
I mean, their thinking was, if we can offer gamers the ability to play games even if they don't have high-end PCs, why would they be on Steam? And from their perspective, what perplexed them about Valve's success is Amazon is so much larger. Amazon Prime Gaming has so many more subscribers than Steam even has. They should be winning this war. And yet everyone just keeps going to Steam. So they tried a bunch of different methods of killing Steam. And this sort of now includes also, GeForce Now, Xbox Game Pass, Stadia from Google, all of these services that we just sort of look at as services that these guys are offering for gamers. What now starts to make sense is all of these services, all of these studios are desperate to try and kill Steam. And you have to understand why. Valve built the perfect business model. The gaming industry is the largest entertainment industry in the world. There's nothing larger. It's larger than movies and music combined. Steam gets a 15% cut of every single game sold, nearly every single game sold in the gaming industry.
Yeah. I used to be a little bit against Steam because of the fact that I don't like this notion that everybody's like, no, I need to buy this thing on Steam. And I used to buy things in all types of different places. To kind of like be like, I don't care if it's just on Steam. I'll buy it on another place if it's cheaper or whatever. I don't care. But the more and more you hear about some of these stories and the policies that Steam does, like the simple fact that Gabe comes out and is like, oh, you guys want to put ads in games? No. Not on my platform, you fucking don't. And I was like, oh. Stuff like that and more other consumer-centric decisions that they end up making. I'm like, you know what?
Steam ain't bad.
I get it.
But this is ultimately the VP of Amazon. The reason for his post is to explain all of the mistakes they made. You see, they assumed that if you're bigger and you build something bigger, the gamers will come. And what they didn't realize was that the gamers already had a solution to their problems. It was Steam.
Yeah.
Steam was the solution.
I mean, basically that was the whole thing where when he started Steam, Gaben even saying that like the piracy is a service problem. Your service is like, it's not advantageous to the customer. You give a value to the customer and he's not going to pirate shit just because he can.
Yeah.
You make it easier to buy the games than to pirate them and people will buy the games.
Yeah.
That was it. And he's absolutely correct.
Oh,
with
yeah.
that.
Because think about all of the ways in which Steam operates. Steam is a marketplace where you can buy games, also buy some not good things for the gaming industry, but you can buy games on there, right? It's also a social media in a way because there are forums and people engage on those forums all the time with each other. It's a place where you and your friends can easily connect and play games together. Like if you all own the game on Steam, you literally just connect through Steam. You have Steam Voice if you need it. It's all right there. You don't have to go to all sorts of other platforms and find it. It's usually built right into the Steam interface. And your games update automatically. You don't have to go through a list of games to click auto update. It just does it. Everything just works. And that is the extent of what gamers require.
Just like a Bethesda game, it just works.
That is the extent of what gamers require. I mean, I look at Xbox Game Pass, and I look at the trouble, because Xbox Game Pass is also, by the way, a challenge to Steam. Microsoft is trying to kill Steam through the Xbox Game Pass, but that's a whole different story. But you look at Xbox Game Pass, and you look at buying games on Xbox Game Pass, and you very quickly realize it's a nightmare to buy a game, to actually get your games. The store, it doesn't make any sense. The layout of the store doesn't make any sense. It doesn't track all of the information that you want it to track. It just isn't a fun experience. I mean, even on Microsoft, the rating system sucks. Whereas on Steam, reviews and rating systems are so bred into the culture of the platform. You can click on a random game and get a very quick sense of how good this game is going to be. You don't have to scroll down. You can literally just look. Very positive, mostly positive.
Yeah.
It tells you everything you need to know, right? Right there on the box. So I think it's funny how Gabe Newell does nothing and just keeps winning. Steam just keeps going.
It's like, good luck with your Amazon Fire Stick thing. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah, have fun with that.
And I think it's also the mark of a man that knows gamers. I think Gabe knows gamers. He knows how gamers think. Because
it's like I was telling you the other day, I was Googling his age, and all I had to do is type, what's Gabe Newell's, and age was auto-completed. Everybody's like, don't die.
Yeah, please don't
Can't die.
Just stay alive.
Gotta be healthy.
Yeah.
Stay alive.
But I think the thing with Gabe and how you know he understands the heart of gamers is whenever these studios or whenever these companies come up with this new thing to try and challenge Steam, Steam is the one platform that doesn't chase trends. It doesn't try to chase the next big thing.
You remember also the NFTs where Tim Sweeney was like, hell yeah, NFTs, let's fucking go. And Gabe was like, nope.
Nah, we good.
Not on our store. Fuck that shit. That does not, it's not good value. Fuck you guys.
See, they don't make decisions just for the short term. They work on their features. This is why Steam is the perfect. I don't care what anyone says. It's the perfect platform. It does everything I needed to do. I've never had a feature, maybe other people have, but there's no features that I look for in video gaming where I go, man, I wish Steam had this option.
I wish their offline mode was more reliable, because sometimes if you lose internet access, the offline mode is like, oh, we didn't give you the authorization before you went offline or some bullshit, and sometimes stuff doesn't work.
Oh, I've not had that yet, but I can see that probably being an issue. The question would be, is that a Steam side issue, or is that a game side issue? Like, do the company require special privileges that you need to access?
I think it's usually on Steam's end, but it's like if you go into Steam and you're like you prepare it ahead of time and you're like, okay, I'm gonna lose internet, so I want to be set to be playing my games.
Why.
It'll work offline.
Yeah.
But like if you just suddenly lose internet, that can sometimes be a problem.
You see, that's probably why, because I live in South Africa and we've had so many blackouts over the years. All of my games have those. If you can be offline, they're all set to always sync so that I can play them offline. So that's why probably I've never experienced that issue, but I can see for people who live in first world nations where electricity just comes, that you guys don't really prepare for situations like that. Perks and all that, first world problems.
Yeah.
But, fundamentally, outside of that, can you think of a single feature that Steam doesn't have that you wish, oh man, I really need this feature. It would make Steam a million times better if it actually had it?
No, because the biggest thing that usually bothers me on other platforms is that they don't support crossplay properly, and Steam, if anything, usually takes great leaps and strides, being like, yeah, well, what do you need us to do? You want something on our API or some shit? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can fix that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
They don't play exclusive games. They don't lock people into exclusive nonsense. They just offer a good service at a reasonable price. And of course, let's be real. Every gamer is usually broke after every single one of their big sales.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty the moment much. Where you buy all of that bullshit games that you're never going to play.
You keep buying bullshit games that you could be playing video games for the rest of your life and die, and you still won't finish your backlog. Dude, it is literally that bad.
I've had entire Steam sales where I'm looking forward to playing a game and I'm waiting for it to go on Steam sale. Then the Steam sale comes around and I buy a shit ton of games, but not that game that I was looking for.
Not the one.
Because I keep going, look at it. This is on sale.
It's only 20%. No, it's going to come down more. Wait, just wait.
But then I buy like playing the shit ton of other games because they were on 90% discount or something.
Like I bought the 2 Dooms in preparation for Doom Dark Ages. I'm probably not going to have time to play those, but I bought them.
I have them literally they're super cheap.
Yeah, I have them installed even. I have them installed on this PC. I could play them right now. Not gonna have time to do it, but it's right there.
Yeah. Just in case, you don't know. You might need this game one day. I bought a game called Prepper, Mr. Prepper. I've never played it. It's sort of like this War of Mine. And I was going through all this War of Mine stint, and then Steam sale came around. And it was for like $5. I just bought it. It's like, oh shit, here we go. Let's buy this. So Steam sale usually leaves everyone just broke. And that's a testament to how amazing the Steam sale is. It gives you access
Absolutely.
to... And every developer wants to get in on it because they know that's the moment that gamers really spend. Gamers will save up money for Steam sales because that's when you get the best bang for your buck. Is during the Steam sales. So yeah, I long live Gaben. Long live Gaben.
Absolutely.
All right. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that is going to be it from us. I still have to go edit this bad boy. This is going to be super fun. I'm really looking forward to
this. Have fun with that.
Yeah. No, I'm very much looking forward to it. But no, I should be able to get it done before 6:00 tonight. When I'm going live. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching us. Thank you so much for joining us. Rurikhan, as always, thanks for being here, for bantering and just having wonderful discussions about the video gaming industry. As always, ladies and gentlemen, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and we will see all of you in the next one. Peace.